Okay. I'll call the work session together to order. And the first budget session item we have is Todd Jones and the Fair Board. So you're on.
Do you want me to repeat? I did bring an alternate budget without the fair, just in case something happens and we don't get to have it. So I gave that to Tracy. Forrest asked me to bring it, so I did. We're hoping that doesn't happen, but just in case, then you'll have it. We've been looking at some of our stuff, and I know you've got the budget we presented in front of you. We've got one gentleman in our bunch that is willing to take early retirement. He'll turn 60 in October. If I can work him some kind of deal. We did contact Wyoming Retirement, and he is eligible. He's a Tier 1, so he could go at age 60 with a full retirement. I just have to figure a way to help him out with the insurance and stuff. So if we can retire him, that would save us about $250,000 in 5 years with all the benefits and everything. If we were able to work some way to help him with his insurance and stuff, it might cost you another $10,000 a year, so 50, you'd net 200 out of it if we could help him. But that's just ideas we're throwing out. We've been looking at everything we've got, trying to cut things down. We didn't hire any summer staff this year yet. So all of us old people are weed eating, cleaning stalls and everything else, but we're getting old. We're just telling you.
I know.
Anyway, if there's any questions on any of it, our revenues are a little bit tight on it because we're not sure what events we're gonna get to have and when we get to have them. We're booking some smaller things now. We've got some weddings coming in starting next month. We do still have some racehorse trainers there training, so we're getting a little bit of stall revenue from them. Again, depending on the numbers of the events that are coming in, we do have, we worked with the health department this morning. They're trying to get some stuff done where we can have the 4-H dog show in 2 weeks. So they're working with them on it, and we've also got a goat show and weigh in. So we're trying to get those things worked out to where everything can happen through, and it looks like it's going to happen. The health department's been great with us, and everybody's cooperating pretty well. So as it happens, we're bringing in every group we can get that fits the mold. And as we get bigger groups, we're bringing bigger groups.
What's the timeline on the building, on the kitchen and the building?
They're about 2 weeks ahead of schedule right now. They're putting the brick on the outside of it right now.
So you think it'll be done by the 1st of July?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so that'll give you another outfit to have things.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes.
It will be done by August 18th, right?
Oh,
Yeah. So we can vote in there? Yeah, don't schedule anything that day. You will not be the only one that dies.
Tracy, when she calls us, whatever she wants, that's what Tracy gets. We don't.
Oh, sure, now you're making us look bad.
We don't mess with her.
Yeah. Yeah, geez.
We don't mess with Tracy.
You guys are great, I appreciate everything.
Yes, it will be done early
Okay,
July.
Forrest had a question.
Maybe more than a question.
Well, yeah, I think we ought to go through this line by line after we get some of these questions
Let's go
answered.
to your green sheet, if everybody will go there.
First one?
Yes, there's only, yeah.
Yep.
You see he's gone down from 733 to 712, that's a 2.8% cut. And when you go from the old budget, the original budget, 712, and look at the budget without fair, it goes up to 840.
And one of the reasons on that, we can cut everything on the fair except there's about $40,000 worth of expenses that we pay all the judges for the 4-H. We pay all of the premiums, and then we pay all our clerks. So unless you can get rid of that $40,000 of expense, we've got it no matter what. And the revenues on the budget without the fair, of course, they're low, again, depending on when we can finally start bringing stuff in. The first big event that we have scheduled besides the Bloom Glow, the end of July, would be the Indian Relay races in September, if they're even allowed to go on. They called me yesterday. Pier just canceled their relay races, so that was one of their big ones. They haven't had any races yet this season, so to have a world championship is going to be a little tough if they don't get to run anywhere else. So, and again, we don't even know if the tribal resources are going to let them come anywhere. So,
Yeah, if there's anybody out of Fremont County, it might be a little tough to get out of there.
yeah.
That's
And
where the cases are.
And most of these are coming out of South Dakota, but Pier's in the same boat as Fremont County. They're not they don't even let anybody on the reservation up there right now, so, or at least come in and do anything. I guess you can drive through, but that's it. So, again, we've got events we're planning, but we don't know. We're trying to generate every bit of cash flow we can. Right now, Angela's been working on some virtual concerts through our replay screen. She actually has one in the planning right now, and then we've also been working on some drive-in theater movie type deals. The school district called and wanted to get our screen for their graduation, and we worked a deal with them. We are going to take the screen up there and set it for their graduation at the event center, and in trade, we're going to get advertising inside of both high school gymnasiums and both outdoor stadiums for the entire year next year to promote, hey, the fair's going to be even bigger and better next year, because we don't know what it's going to be this year. So we're going to be able to promote to the crowd that comes to the carnival and stuff all next year inside of the high schools. And we thought it was a pretty good trade out.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I just have two questions, just kind of globally speaking. What are you guys seeing happen to the sponsorships or partnerships that you have, whether it's fair or otherwise? And
Oh.
then two, if you're running a tight budget, and I see that, if we end up having to cut more across the board just based on collections, where does that go?
Dodge pulled out nationwide. Dodge Ram announced, they called us the other day, and they announced nationwide withdrawal on all rodeos this year. And it's, of course, one of our major sponsors. Some of the oil field companies, of course, you know, even they downsized. We haven't had any of them pull out completely yet, but they've downsized what they're doing. So, yeah, our sponsorships are taking a hit.
And then like cost cutting, like there's more, to do, or where we're
Again, you know, we just have to go through line by line. That's why I was trying to figure early retirements on people and trying to figure out how to get them. We're 9.5 of us taking care of 104 acres right now, so, yeah. So, we'll do what we can. I mean, we've always made it work, right?
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Tom, so if you have people taking the early retirement, are you going to have to replace to keep
That's-
services going?
Maybe not right now. That's why we're trying to figure them out. I mean, it would cut our crews even shorter, but we're also looking at going to 410s if you all will allow that and take 3-day weekends. We'd take Mondays off and then work Tuesday through Friday, because usually we're setting up for events on the weekend, and that would be Friday. And then we've got on-call people that would take care of Monday if we had something going on in there. So we'd work it around where it was just, that cuts your utilities. When I ran the numbers this morning, if I went 410s, we could save between $4,000 and $5,000 just in the first 6 months, not running air conditioners and stuff like that. So I mean, we've been digging and looking at everything we can. We're just looking for your guidance too. I mean, we're trying to generate revenue, trying to cut expenses, but we're pretty dang tight.
The one that, the sheet that you handed out, where is it different from the one we had?
It's all the way through. Revenues and expenses are different all the way
Let's
through.
just run through there, see, like, page 6 is the, where it really starts, the dollar figure.
Top three. No, she brought them.
You've got, and you really don't know yet, you've got grounds in there on page 6 for 65. Is that just keeping things up and what, buying gravel or?
No, that's actually revenues. On the-
Okay.
On page 6,
Well, yeah, and that might be a problem too, you may not have any.
yeah, so see, we dropped our grounds income on the original one we sent you was about 90,000, and we dropped it to 65,
Oh,
and
okay.
that's, again, hoping that we get to at least bring in some events starting in September.
Let's go to the expense side, that starts on 9. Most of that first one's just administration.
Yeah, let's see what we got. We cut general office expense by 6,000. Insurance on employees, that's pretty well stuck. It's increased in almost 10%, so. Payroll taxes, again, that's a constant. Retirement fund, constant. Telephone expense, we're cutting it 1,000. Travel meetings and PR, we haven't cut it, but we know that's one thing that'll probably come out if everything's cut, so. There's a line item that we can take down. Parade expense, of course, if we don't have the fair, that's a 0.
To which one?
The parade expense.
Okay,
That
yep.
knocks out 6,000. Wages clerical, we've got, our bookkeeper runs part-time. If we don't have her during fair, she only works full-time during the fair for about 4 weeks, so that cuts that. Grounds wages, we went from 279 to 250. If we don't have any summer help at all, that can cut even farther. And I think the others, let's see, the others constant, except for the wages for the fair. If we don't have the fair, of course, that's 30,000 that doesn't happen. So
Okay.
it takes the first one was 800,000 or 800,900, and with all the cuts, it was 722,900. Operations.
Any questions going along here, guys? Nope? Okay,
And then on operations, of course, advertising, if we don't have the fair, we've already spent some of it, but you'll pull back, you'll lose 40,000 of it. So that helps. Beer supplies, if you don't have a fair, you don't have to buy any beer, except if we have the Indian relay races, we'll hold the beer permit on it, so that may not be enough if we have that many for the Indian relay races. They can drink some beer. When we called Walla Walla, they sold a lot of beer during those relay races. So, anyway, those expenses.
only in Wyoming, at the Wyoming game in Tucson,
Yeah,
that overwhelmed them. They had no idea.
yeah. And then there is no replay screen expense, that's over. Contract services, if we don't have the rodeo, that drops from 120 to 18.5. Services entertainment drops from 50 to 3,000. Of course, no contract services for the rodeo, so you save 86,000 there. Demo derby expense, 0. Facilities, that's we can try and cut stuff down. Again, we've been turning off air conditioning and heat and everything and not lighting lights, but you still got maintenance in them, screens and everything else, so there's much room there. Gasoline and diesel expense, well, with the price of diesel and gas right now, we save quite a little, unfortunately. And then, Rodetto expense, of course, be 0. General expense, we were able to take from 15 to 13. Machinery maintenance and repair, we have in our capitals that we need to replace 1 truck and 1 tractor. The 1 truck is a diesel, it's got some blow-by in the engine, which means pretty soon it's just gonna be sitting wherever it is. And then the 1 tractor, we worked a deal with Stotts on, like we did before with the replacement from something that somebody had rented and then come back after the rental, so we get a used price on it instead of brand-new price. So it cuts about 40,000 off the cost of the tractor. But if you've got your old machinery, you're still gonna have the repair expenses.
How, the one you're trading off then what kind of shape is it in?
It's in really good shape. Their trade-in value was good on it. It's just got about 9,000 hours on it.
Okay. I mean, those are the kind of things that may have to wait a year.
Yeah, and we understand that. We've kept all our machinery in really good repair. It's just sometimes things go wrong, so.
Yeah.
And to tell you the truth, if we have to wait a year on the tractor, that tractor will go another year. It's in good shape. It's one of those prime trade-ins that they already have a buyer for it if we do trade it in. Printing, of course, we don't have the fair pamphlets and stuff, then we save about $3,000 on the printing. Any questions yet? Okay. Purse rodeo, of course, we don't have a rodeo, we don't have any purse, so that saves you $132,000. I can tell you that probably one of the biggest problems that we have, even with the fair going on, is our carnival, which pays a lot of the expenses for a lot of things that go on. And if you have your social distancing on your carnival, and the way everybody takes pictures and plays on Facebook, the first time somebody doesn't clean one of those pieces of equipment right, and they get a picture of it and it goes on Facebook, we're all gonna be fried. So our carnival guy's a little nervous right now, and he was the one in San Antonio, they shut down 2 days in, and he lost quite a bit of money in San Antonio, so he's a little gun shy and nervous right now. He said, if we need you to just put a sign up at the front gate that says enter at your own risk, and I said, yeah, well, it's still not gonna help, so. Anyway, I'll get back to this stuff. The multipurpose facility on electric, and this is just based on if the electric service gets the raise that they're asking for, this is what it's gonna run. Let's see, same with the gas and the water. And then, of course, the 4-H budget, this is all stuff that if we don't have the fair, do we still pay for it? Or do we not pay for it? What happens? So that's in there, and that's your decision.
Go ahead.
So that's I ran the number. It's about $127,000 more if you don't have the fair. So it's generating roughly that much more than what it costs you.
Yeah, and that's
to
based
do
on if the carnival can operate at full capacity.
I'll admit right now that we don't have numbers yet, but we should by the end of today or sometime tomorrow, and we will know what our March sales tax revenues were. And really, until we get into those and the April, obviously April's going to be much worse than March, and March is going to be bad.
You bet.
And of course, we don't know what June's going to look like, July. As I mentioned last night, Dr. Harris, at the last minute, shut down the car show this weekend,
Yeah,
specifically because we'd had a spike in the number of cases here. And that was in the text of her message. You know, that could happen to anything. But the point being, we just don't know where our numbers are going to be. Property taxes, talking to Nick about those, we're right at 14 million. And of course, the 11th has come and gone, and that was the second half of taxes. So there will be a little bit more, but not much, because there's always some people who just don't get it done in time. But we budgeted for 14.3. It looks like we're going to be about 14.6. So that helps us cover the 3% raises everybody got last year, or
Sure.
this year, that we gave out last year. So where I'm going with all this is we don't really know where our numbers are going to end up. So I'm going to ask you to think about how versus your 2020, FY 2020 budget, how would you cut 10%? How would you cut 20%?
I worked on it this morning, and again, based on what events we can get, I can get 10 to 15 out of it. Massaging some of the stuff. If I can work an early retirement deal with him, I can come pretty close to 20% without even laying anybody off. So I've been wrestling with it, and I think I can get her done. I know you guys are, and hell, we don't have a cash flow. We know what it's like, so we understand what a pickle you guys are in, and so are we, but we're hoping to be able to get back to renting stuff out and getting some cash flow in, and easing some of the burden on you guys too, so. I've struggled with it, but I can get her to happen. I can make it.
On all of those, there's not much in here for maintenance stuff. It's just the main things, electric, gas, utilities, that kind of thing.
And
And
if
that's
they-
probably not gonna go down much. But is there anything in here about you're wanting to replace something, besides the tractor? I mean, corrals or anything like that?
Yeah, some of
And that-
that can be put off for a year, the fences and chutes. Again, the one pickup would be more important than the tractor, because with the blow-by on that diesel engine, I just can see it being sitting somewhere on a dead weight. But furniture and office computers, yes, that can wait. Again, all of this can wait. There's not, the big thing is the parking lot. If we can get started on that parking lot, another winter of freezing and stuff on it, we're gonna start losing some of it.
And that's where is that one?
That's on that page, the grounds improvements, the 211,000 on the 1%.
Okay.
We have a 5-year plan on it, and this was the cheapest section to start on, was 211.
And that's all under 1 cent. We already approved that?
No,
Okay. Go ahead.
And we haven't had a chance to talk about this amongst ourselves, whether this is something we want to consider or want to urge everyone to consider. Most of you may have seen the article in the paper this morning about what the city's doing as far as furloughing people. Like I say, we haven't had a chance to talk about it amongst ourselves, whether or not that's something we want to consider. And that only makes up a $2.9 million difference. I think ours is going to challenge that,
okay,
at least percentage-wise.
sure.
You know, and as I talk to people, you know, from other states, their revenues, they're, you know, off 20% conservatively. So,
It's a last resort, but I've looked at it for us, and that's why I tried working the early retirements on, see who was eligible. And I actually went and talked to this fella, and rather than clean stalls, he'd like to take early retirement. And I don't blame him. He's our grounds maintenance person as far as sprinkler systems and plumbing and things like that. And the cleaning stalls, it's a little harder on him. He's a smoker and stuff, and this is a little harder on him.
Well, if we did have to cut, and I guess you've looked at it, that, you know, there's 361 grand in the capital outlay. And you don't really want to not do that parking lot, but if we haven't got anything going, that's a good place to cut a lot of money out.
You bet.
You're, on the tractor, I understand about the truck. This morning, I just drove through the county shop out there. There's a Ford truck sitting back there, an SO truck. And it's over there behind the old fire station. And I'm thinking that one's probably gonna be on a sale or something.
Okay.
Maybe it's better than the one you've got. Maybe you could trade.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe has more miles. I don't know have no idea anything about it. But that might be easy to get into for a
Okay.
year.
All right.
And you'd have to talk to Mike about that.
Okay.
What else is on down here?
That's pretty much it. That
Okay,
60,000 in reserves that we've spent just paying bills.
Mr. Chairman.
yes.
And that 60,000, that's basically due to a loss in revenues here over the last 60 days.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that was a bad answer. Yes.
Other questions?
Just the last one, Mr. Chairman. So because it's COVID, I'm sure you guys, same as everybody, are tracking that and then are hoping for reimbursement of some kind okay, just checking. Thank you.
We actually applied for some of those business relief deals, but we weren't eligible because we're a government entity and get tax money. We tried on 3 of them, so we're still waiting.
Have you looked at the new, maybe you were gonna ask too, have you looked at that new bill they just passed?
The 2.1 billion
Yeah.
from the state. I talked to Tom Walters about it a little bit. He was gonna check and see if we're eligible for it.
Okay. Might be on that one.
Yeah.
And I think too, Mr. Chairman, just to follow up, so I think when they meet on the 29th, there's organizations like ours that are going to potentially be considered. Visit Casper falls in the same. So I think that'll be on their agenda in June.
And we did apply for federal aid through the International Association of Fairs. They've, through their international association, they've gone to the feds for money for fairs and rodeos. So we've submitted all our stuff to them too.
Okay.
We've gone after everything we could think of.
Okay. Other questions?
No questions. I just want to say it's always a pleasure and you guys do a great job. And you're a really important asset to our county and I appreciate what you do. And
We're gonna, if we open up any kind of thing at all, there's a lot of trailers coming through. And if we can start using our campgrounds and stuff, we're gonna see if we can generate some money to CVB too.
Mr.
we'll
Chairman.
take it.
And we think we can get some of them through there. We turned off all our water. Of course, once the schools closed down, the kids didn't have enough to do. The sheriffs called me one afternoon and every hydrant on our place was open and our parking lot was flooded. Yeah, so we shut water off to all our hydrants. Yeah.
Kids are
Mr.
kids.
Chairman.
Yes.
Tom, are you guys still looking at doing something for the 4-H kids with the animals livestock show auction?
Again,
That
depends
would
on
be
the health
through the-
department, but they've been looking at virtual sales and virtual shows, and that may be the way they have to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what was telling you, that one expense in there, it's pretty significant, but it's all figure 4-H.
Yeah.
So, again,
And really, that's a decision that the 4-H people have to make.
Yeah,
The Fair Board didn't get to make that for them.
No, I was just wondering if they're gonna support that, if they did go that way, because they were talking about doing it virtually. If there's anything, I don't know if they bring them in or individually, or if they should video them at home, or how
We-
they do that.
actually, the International Association's got a program called ShowWorks, and they've sent us quite a little information on doing those virtual sales. We've sent it all over to Jody,
Okay,
so that she can look at it and see what'll work for her and Scott both.
yeah,
And Scott, when talking to Scott last night, even if they have a sale, they're no longer to butcher them animals. They, the quickest they can get into anything is September to have one killed and processed, and they can't even take them all. So
yeah.
life may be a little tougher on it this year. Just, I don't know. I can't tell you. I
Yeah,
just
no,
can't.
I talked to a couple of butchers, and they're packed. They're already scheduled to clear out past August.
Yeah.
Usually, is that
And
custom meats also?
And
in
the
Hudson?
two that I talked to, they don't even have it blocked off for 4-H people at all.
Really?
Yeah, they're that tight.
Usually he does. He keeps it open up in Wyoming Custom Meats for 4-H, but I haven't talked to him about that.
I didn't talk to Custom, but yeah, the ones I talked to, they didn't block out anything for 4-H or FFA this year.
No, and they're backed up with private
Yeah.
processing, with all ranchers getting rid of stuff.
Yep,
That they can.
thanks.
No, thank you. I wished I had a better answer for you.
No, I talked to the 4-H, and I was just wondering if you're going, if they're bringing them in, talk to you about bringing them in, or how they were going to try to do that, so.
Yeah, shoot, I told them we'd work through logistics. If they're bringing them in, we'll have to do it in the outdoor arena where we can keep the distancing and everything. And, yeah, we did talk a little bit about it last night at our meeting, and we're all up in the air. We don't know.
We'll see.
Yeah, yeah. Where it's headed, I don't know. We have been on conference calls with the governor and with Cheyenne Frontier Day, Sheridan, Laramie, Thermopolis, Cody. Things don't look real good. I can just tell you that. You know, kind of, this flare-up may not help things, especially with Fremont flaring up like it did, and then Worland, the nursing home hitting like it did. It just, hell, we don't know what they're gonna do. It's just tough. We don't know. Don't know what he's gonna tell us. Everybody wants an answer, but we don't know.
Well, I think they're gonna slow down openings. You know, the next one we were thinking about is churches, and then we weren't even talking about fair yet,
Yeah.
but, it's not looking real great.
It's, yeah, statewide. I mean, everybody's still trying to keep a positive attitude and working towards stuff, but so many of our contracts, we've got to give answers to some of our big contracts by the 1st of June, so we're gonna either have to shit or get off the pot come the 1st of June. That's the way it is. Then live with the decision we make. The bad thing is if we run the fair and it goes to hell and we lose $350,000, we're done.
Well, that's it, and people, we just went through that with CNFR, whether to go or not go, and I think we did the right thing by
Yeah.
not having it.
Well, and there
Because
was,
that's, you know, it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks away, and the other thing is, you can have it, but our parents can let those kids come up here if they have that choice.
yeah,
And then are people gonna go out and look at it? And that's the people that are paying.
yeah, yeah. And there was, from what we'd talked to several of those teams that had already booked stalls with us, and a lot of the colleges had already shut down the travel and weren't even gonna let the kids
Yeah.
travel to begin with. So your rodeo was already gonna take a big hit.
Well, and what was the story Scott told us last night? National High School Rodeo Finals, what, there were 2,300 horses?
Yeah,
One horse dropped dead
and they shut it down.
Quarantined them all
Yep,
on the fairgrounds for 3 days.
yep, until they get blood tests.
Where's the
back.
Rock
And
Springs?
tested every single, where was it? Was that in, no?
No.
Some other state.
That went in New
Is that in
Mexico.
South Dakota this year?
Yeah, I can't.
Because they've been rotating it.
The junior high school rodeo was in South Dakota, but I don't remember.
I think it's
I
in
don't know.
Nebraska. I don't remember. Anyway.
They'll come up with COVID related on that, I suppose.
I mean, I don't mean to be negative about any of this either, I'm just trying to be realistic. Trying to keep it positive, but sometimes it gets a little
Tough
tough.
to do.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions? Well, it's gonna be a little bit before we know what our figures look like too. And it'll, then we'll know what to come back at everybody with.
Okay, and then I have the one question, the guy that works for us that's willing to take early retirement, he turns 60 in, is it October 8th?
October 5th, I think.
5th. And if I can sit down and meet with you guys and work something that's feasible to him, where he can draw his retirement and we can help with his insurance or do something, we can save quite a little money on our budget just that way, because it's, with benefits and everything on him, we're just over 52,000 a year.
That may be, an answer for Tracy and Cindy to get with, and maybe Danielle. But these guys can answer that better than,
Is it something that we can explore?
yeah,
Okay,
that'll save money in the long run, but the insurance, he'd have to pay the Cobra, right? So, yeah, that's just something that we'd have to get with Tracy about,
okay,
make an appointment and come down.
okay,
And the person wouldn't have to be here,
Yeah.
good.
just,
I knew that.
He's not real
That's what I was
social.
doing.
well, social or not, I mean, you're talking, you need to talk, have that conversation first.
Yeah, and he said I'd a lot rather do that than clean those stalls. He's just about to kill him.
And we'll try to make it work, but we'll just have to look.
Okay.
Okay,
Pardon?
Numbers for the 14.
For the,
The tractors?
oh, yeah, I'll look at,
No, not tractor, the hours.
They have the most games in the stock.
oh, the 410s, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I can look at that and see, but
They
when I ran it this morning, we're around 5,000 in savings in the first 6 months, just in utilities for not using it that one day.
would you alternate half the crew as Monday through Friday or whatever, Monday through Thursday, and the other half
No,
Tuesday through, okay.
we go them all Tuesday through Friday.
Okay.
Monday's usually our cleanup day anyway from an event, so if we've got the person on call coming in to lock stuff up, if we do have a Monday night event, it's pretty easy to set up.
Okay,
And it'd be a constant Tuesday through Friday, and we'd start at 7 in the morning and run till 5:30.
okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
If we have any additional questions, we'll let you know.
All right,
This,
thanks.
the other sheet we can throw out.
Which
not-
one?
This is the one with cuts and this is the one without cuts.
You better keep them both.
One's with fair and one's without.
Okay. One with and one without.
Yeah.
Huh, okay. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Come on up.
What do we win? Sounds like game is right.
The hot seat.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. May I approach?
Sure.
Okay.
We'll hand them out.
Mr. Chairman, before she starts, can I just make a comment? Your budget letter was such a pleasure to read. Like, you just took it upon yourself and made some adjustments, and I just want to thank you. It was very clearly written, and I appreciate the $1 to 30 match, and you just outlined it so well, and I think I was very complimentary to you last year as
Yeah.
well, but
You were,
I just wanted to
Brooke.
say
Thank
thank
you.
you. It's
And
just a
I
pleasure.
would love to take the credit for that, so what I must tell you is that
Brenda Eichhoff is back working with us and has been, as you know, for a couple of years. And actually, Brenda and I composed that together, so I shall let her know that.
Please pass it on.
I
Really,
certainly
thank you.
shall. It sounds as though you all are more interested today in hearing about how we can assist you in making cuts. I put this book together, and as we were sitting there, I thought, I'm pretty sure you know that, I'm hoping you know that we do some really great work. I think that maybe Janice, let's let you start it off, and, yeah.
I'm Janice, I'm the finance manager at Community Action. Community Action typically has 7 grants, 5 federal, 1 state, and hopefully 1 county. Administrative funding provided by Natrona County leverages $30 of human services for every dollar that the county invests. We would not be able to make our federal funding grants because of the match. If we don't have the match, we can't do them. We also use the county money for utilizing rental payments to Housing First, the program that you guys, I'm sure, am aware of. We have some bad news and some good news. 3 of our subrecipients were unable to use their funds because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So they were Wyoming Dementia, Lions Camp, and Healthcare for the Homeless. They were all really sad to send the money back, but they knew that they couldn't use it because everything is shut down. Healthcare for the Homeless was really wanting to help the community with vision, dental, and oxygen for the homeless, but there again, it wasn't possible. So, with that said, I'm going to return a check to you for $25,788.64.
All right. Don't let Tracy have it.
Tracy,
Mr. Chairman, has that ever happened in the history of budget hearings in your time here?
Not the check coming in now. They usually just don't spend it.
Okay, okay.
No, we wanted to give it back to you so that you would know, kind of the COVID-19 is just, it's ravaging everybody.
So going forward, you'll be able to put it out somewhere else, the money, next year's.
Hopefully, yes. Yes, I think people will really need it next year.
Okay.
I think the CARES Act is nebulous at this point for us, so we're looking forward to hearing what that brings about. For our CSBG grant, it looks rather large, but we don't really know that, as it hasn't been approved yet. So that will help tremendously, so.
Okay.
Yep. I won't go through this entire presentation because I know, as we stated, that you are more interested in seeing kind of maybe a little bit about where we are, but more importantly, our money and our fiscal responsibilities. What I would like to say is that last year, Community Action saw 1,528 individuals in their office and 775 individual families who did not become evicted as a result of our help. I know in the past we've talked about, well, okay, but why would you be helping that many people in the community? I want you to know we have to investigate. We receive copies, for instance, if someone has had a medical problem, they must furnish those. If there's a car problem, if someone hasn't worked, we are very diligent in making sure that if we help someone, they are going to stay in their homes. We have great news this year. We're in the process of doing outcomes, 90-day outcomes, 120-day outcomes for people that we've helped to make sure they are maintaining. And we'll be looking forward to presenting that to you next year. So that's great. I do want to talk a little bit about Healthcare for the Homeless and how they received the National Quality Leadership Award, which was just wonderful. And that's because of quality improvement. And actually, what was amazing is that they ranked in the upper 1% to 2% of all healthcare facilities in the United States. And they did an awesome job by really their quality improvement was above anybody else's in the state of Wyoming, needless to say. So it was just, it's marvelous. And then I will just tell you that the work they do and the collaboration they do, yes, it's essential. But when they're going to the mission right now, every day, Monday through Thursday, from 7 to 9, and I'm worried every single day they go. Every single day, because we still don't have what we need PPE-wise. So, we're still doing it, and we'll continue to do it very carefully, but it is continuing. The other thing that we've done that's just been marvelous the last 2 years is collaborate with the University of Wyoming Family Practice. We have a resident who is a pharmacy resident. We've had one for 2 years. This year, it's just really and truly, when I say it, it's hard to believe, but we have written 7,000 and filled 7,350 prescriptions over the last 12 months. And that's just critical for the county, it's critical for the city. And I think what is even more important than that, and you may have seen this, I think, the Housing First, most everybody, well, I should say, there are many people who know about Housing First. Dr. Zam Zambiris, he's a professor at NYU in Columbia. He put together Housing First in 1992, and the concept is still strong. And it's take people out of where they are, put them in a home, work diligently with intensive case management, help them see things differently with a plan of action, respectfully, and we've had a tremendous, tremendous rate of completion in our program. We have 22 people, half of them are working right now. They came into us in pretty tough shape. And I will tell you that if you had a chance to look at this, you will see that 81%, there's been an 81% reduction in how many stays are at Wyoming Behavioral Institute. And let's face it, a lot of us were pretty leery about, can we really do this? I know this program or not. They were like, is this really going to work? Well, it's been great. And the emergency room visits, I wish they were even lower, but there's a 62% drop in those. We haven't had anyone arrested in a program for, I really don't know that. I know that's a hard thing to talk about, but we need to. It's reality. And gosh, it's been going probably 2 years before anybody's been arrested for anything. And these folks are the ones who've been, kind of struggling for years. So this is really great news. So, and then we did want to thank you for TANF and your support with TANF, and just share one very encouraging thing, and that is we hired a new young woman, Brittany, and this is quite unbelievable, but she had enrolled 100 people in the TANF program. And the TANF program, of course, is for people who have children under 18, temporary assistance for needy families. She, with these individuals, helped 69 of them find jobs within Casper. So we just haven't had numbers that look like this. So we're really excited. We're really excited, and then we're really bummed out because it's so hard for you all, and we know that. And lastly, you may see these pictures in the past, and in the back, and they may seem trite, but you know what? They're really important to us, and I'll tell you, I'm probably going to get emotional. They're really important to us because we are honored to be a part of this county. And a part of your county means everything to us. And everyone here, the first picture is of CAP, the second is of Healthcare for the Homeless. And I will tell you that we will and have remained good stewards of your money. And we appreciate being involved with you, and certainly are honored and proud when we say we're with the county. And that's a fact. So that's where we stand. I think Janice has hard questions coming.
Any questions? Yes.
So one of the bills that was passed on Saturday does have a significant section in there for housing and stuff.
Yes.
Can you well, it's unclear how it's going to be interpreted. It gives the governor a lot, and I read through it today, and it's still pretty broad.
It is.
But it sounds as if they are going to make it a real strong attempt to probably increase keeping people from getting booted out of homes, but
Yes, it
also,
was in
and
there.
potentially putting them in. Have you, I don't know if we can help, or if you need our assistance in any way,
thank
to
you.
actually talk down there, because we have a program that's clearly successful.
Yeah.
And have boots on the ground to where maybe, and I don't want to put you in a position where you're going to go from having a need of 16 people to 160 people, but you surely have proven you can do wonders with it.
Thank you.
And I know there's going to be a big tranche of money that's probably going to need allocation and probably going to need some strong voices on how best to do this. You know, I think some people are just simply going to say, I can't make my rent. And they're going to get the money. But if
Right.
there's probably some people that were in this position before this started. And I'm just wondering if this is an opportunity to get some of that money back into this, especially the homeless part of it.
It is indeed. And then we, at the risk of being greedy, we feel like the CARES Act could, wouldn't you agree, is going to be,
It's going to be
Huge.
substantial.
And that's what I mean, there's gonna be, so the one bill takes some of that CARES money and puts it in, and I can't remember the number, but it is a big number
yeah.
that's gonna go into the renters, landlords, something else, there's 3 of them. But there's a big tranche of money that's gonna be in there, and it's gonna get allocated based on, I'm gonna guess, through the state health department,
Right.
or whoever you work with.
Behavioral health.
Because it's gonna, the governor's gonna have that latitude on how that gets kind of, just gives him broad authority to do a lot of these things, so.
And I think the community service block grant might be a part of that. We have heard from our colleague who actually is running our program with the state, and that is Sarah, and I just lost her last name. Green, yeah, it's too hard. Anyway, and she has indicated that there's a really significant amount of money coming down. Yeah, sometimes you wonder if it isn't too much, but
Yeah.
Well, if you apply for some of those and then you've got to have somebody sign off on it,
oh, that's very kind.
then I think we're willing to do that.
It's very, very kind. Thank you.
With any of those grant programs.
Thank you. Well, we definitely will need them. And just for your edification, we did receive monies from United Way. They had benefactors who gave them, I think up to date, it's 130,000. And so they gifted us 25,000, but they provided all the files. They would bring them to our office, or we would pick them up. We would pay the rent for them so that we could do the work. Janice did the vouchers and the checks, et cetera. And so we just completed that today at 25,000. So, yeah, so I hope that's helping the county as well. you know.
And it went quick.
Yes, indeed.
Maybe you can get some more,
Yeah.
Yeah.
put some more out. Okay. Other questions? See any? We'll let you know, and thanks for working on those cuts. And thanks for the check.
Sure.
We will be
That'll help
working.
going into next year.
Yeah, it's gotta help.
You bet.
Let's see how fast Tracy moves.
I
here.
wish that, yeah, I'll tell you what, when you get up, you just pass that over to this way. Yeah, yeah.
Any other
But
questions?
anyway, thank you for doing that. I hope all of the departments send some money back. That'll
Good.
help for next year.
Yes,
Okay, thank you very much.
thank you.
Tell Brenda hi.
Certainly shall.
Okay.
Thank you.
Here you go.
Yeah, man,
You,
out of order.
Forrest, did we allocate that 50,000? Their 1 cent request? Because the fairgrounds, I'm pretty sure, wasn't in there for the parking. But you know how we.
No.
But we had, there is that little bit that we have left over. I mean, forgetting, we may not even get close to the number, but.
I'd have to look at that sheet, but I'm
I
pretty
got it.
sure
Oh, he's
we
got it.
did the 50,000.
Yeah, I think we did.
It's in the request, but the paving, that, the fairgrounds paving was, I was just trying to keep track of which ones were.
It's not in the four-year allocation, but it is reflected in the request to this.
55,
Correct.
yeah, the Community Action Partnership, 55.
And they reduced that to 50. The cap reduced that 1 cent request to 50.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, we're rolling now.
We're rolling. We're on a roll. Did you hear that? Come on up, guys. We're on a roll. We've been cutting heads off. Pass it on.
I did use.
Pull up that chair over there if you'd like.
Did I not use my mic? Mine's on?
Well, hello. It's great to see you all. Yeah.
If that sentiment continues, that'd be great.
I am here to tell you, who wants to be sitting in your chairs right now? Not me. It's a tough time, isn't it?
Just get a sharp knife and go to work.
There you go.
Okay, everybody got the library up?
So, the last couple of years, I've come and talked to you. Well, I guess before we kind of even start about this year's request, let's talk about what we've accomplished for you this year. So for the county, we've added back our Sunday hours. You were gracious last year and were able to find it in your budget to fund those additional staff members, and it was met with wide appreciation from our community. And as each Sunday opened, when we had those openings, we were gaining a little ground and a little ground every time and how many people came in, because we had just trained them that we weren't open on Sundays for a year, and then plus, because it took time to train our new staff. And so then we got them trained, okay, we're open on Sundays now, and then COVID hit, and then we were closed on Sundays, so it's like been a hot mess at the library. But I will say that was very much appreciated by myself, by my staff, but more importantly, by your constituents and residents here in Natrona County, as an opportunity for them to be able to get into the library for the services that they needed us for. And so that was really great. And of course, here we are in some people call we're in our current reality, which I'm going to say it's like an alternate universe. So as you know, we've been closed, and staff is working from home. Our whole service model just totally flipped on its head, and what we provided, what our services were, and how we did that just changed dramatically. But staff is back, and boy, are they excited to be back. And we are training, because as we begin to open back up to the community, what that looks like and what we're able to do while still respecting and honoring the importance of social distancing and all the guidelines put in place, and then just common sense realities in the library. So it's going to be a little different as we start to reopen. And I have here for you, I'll give it to you in a minute, our staged reopening plan, which is probably more in the weeds than you even need to see, because it's got things like in the first stage, we're training staff on this and this and this. And so, but you can at least kind of get an idea. I just wanted, this is what my management team and I put together, and this is what the staff is seeing. So we're going to be doing things like when we open up next Tuesday, because of course Monday's a holiday, which is kind of ironic that the first week we're open after being closed, the first day is a holiday. I'm like, really? It's kind of weird. But when we open up on Tuesday, it is going to be, so come in and browse, select what you want, check it out, and go. We won't have any seating. We won't have any lingering in the library, because for social distancing, as you know, when you open the courthouse downstairs, we anticipate a line, and we want for that line to move as quickly and smoothly as possible. And then we're just going to kind of wing it. Now, that's not in the plan. It doesn't say we're going to wing it. But this is a plan. It's not etched in stone. It was, of course, as you know, had the blessings of the county health department. And so a plan is just that. It's an idea and a roadmap. But we will be adjusting on the fly as we need to accommodate as many patrons, offering as many services as we can. So that's kind of a brief picture of, the biggest thing for last year was the reopening on Sundays and getting the staff members so we could do that. But then here we are talking about the budget for next year. So you sent out your letter. It says, don't ask for any more than you received last year. Excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. And so we did just that. So in the past, when I've come and sat here, I've really I felt like defended my request and really campaigned hard for fulfill that request. And this year, I'm going to say I really have the utmost respect for this commission and for the situation you're in. We are in exigent circumstances. And I will say, if you fund us exactly what you gave us last year, we're going to knock your socks off on what we can do with that. We can do a lot, and we did a lot with the funding you gave us. I don't anticipate that to be the reality. I mean, I understand that revenues are cut, taxes are, tax revenues are cut. I'm hoping that, it's a little closer to what the city was saying than maybe what was presented at the board, but we don't know. And you don't have a crystal ball, and I don't have a crystal ball. And I'm just going to say, I just want you to remember the impact that the library has on this community. It has an economic impact to help people gain their education. It gives people a place to learn, to gather together and experience from each other, the community dynamics. There's a lot of things the library does for this community, but I am not going to sit here and beg you for what I'm not sure that you even have. So this is going to be a really quick request from me. I submitted a status quo request, and I guess I would ask, do you have any ideas of what you're looking at next year, or are you just waiting and you'll let us know when you know more?
Well, we don't have exactly the numbers put together yet. I don't know whether WCCA is going to put out an update to the revenue estimating manual.
Well, they're waiting.
Waiting.
Nobody has any idea right now, so everything looks wonderful. The last stuff we got looks wonderful, but that doesn't
But we
mean-
know that's not the truth.
Well, because we, as Forrest alluded to earlier,
we have not seen anything from the state, any impacts yet. So severance tax payments, fuel surcharges, the sales tax, use taxes, none of that. We run a couple months, one and a half to 2
Basically a month
behind. So we really haven't seen it yet. So when we see this next check, we're going to have a pretty good idea of what we can expect. And if we stay in a, still tourism gathering lockdown, we're going to have a pretty good idea at that point. And then we just don't know about oil.
Yeah.
So.
And
It'll
I
be,
understand that, yes, so I know that to be the truth.
Go ahead,
Although I will say, I'm going to hope that drive vacations are going to go up and that they're going to come through Natrona County and spend all their money here, right? There you go.
If they want to get out.
That's right, if they want to get out. So there you go.
Forrest, you had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, so you've been shut down for, what, 6?
How long has it been? Well,
6, 7
6 weeks,
weeks?
I guess, yes.
How much money did you save?
Well, we didn't really save a lot of money. We were still running electricity. We still had some staff in the building, so our utilities, in fact, Greta and I were just visiting this morning, our utilities really didn't see much of a change. Our staff was still paid. They were working from home. And so, 92.6% of our budget that we receive from the county is for staff. And since that didn't change, if everything else had gone away, if utilities had stopped, if water bills had stopped, if the phone had been, everything else, you would have only seen less than 8%, because 92.6 is staff anyway. But we were still running the light, we still had the lights on, we still had everything on. Now, we did suspend purchases of a lot of our items. We didn't buy any more books. But on the other hand, we did increase our digital collection because there was a run on digital collection. The great thing is we have 2 avenues for a digital collection. One is through the state library, and the other is Overdrive, which is a consortia of, I think now, are we at 11 libraries? I don't remember. It's gone up in Wyoming that participate in that consortia. So we weren't the only ones increasing the dollars to add to that digital content. Other libraries were as well, and we all benefited equally from that. We really looked at collections where we had a shortage, so our, like our young adult collections, the things that kids needed for school. We spent some money there, but that's for us. That's 1 cent funding for our collection. But yeah, as far as operational expenses, we were changing what we were doing. We were limited in what we could do, but expenditures really didn't change that much.
And as a follow-up to that, I believe it was 2 years ago, we managed to get your actual budget from you.
Okay?
Would you be willing to provide that to us?
Certainly. So you're talking about actual budget, how we expend our county funds?
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah,
Budget versus actual?
yeah, similar to what the fairgrounds does. Now,
I haven't been asked for that, so I'd give that to you anytime that you wanted. It's audited every year,
yeah,
and is a part of your audit, actually.
yeah, and kind of like to see your, and do you track month-to-month expenses and where you're at? And
Yes, we do.
Yeah, and we review it as a board too.
Okay.
Every month.
Okay,
In fact, sometimes in detail. So, sometimes in extreme detail, but.
Nitty-gritty, every purchase detail sometimes.
and,
Well,
Yeah, a lot.
yeah, just like to see that.
Yes, no
And
problem.
just to be fair, I asked,
And that is a part of our minutes anyway, so that should be easy to come up with.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's true, good point.
I asked the fair, had they considered, and yes, they had, what a 10% cut, how they would deal with that. And even a 20% cut, and how you might be able to get there. Now, Community Action Partners came in, and they cut theirs by 24% before they ever walked in the door, and handed us a check for $25,000 that they didn't use this year. So we almost gave them a standing ovation.
I was here when
Almost.
they said
He's
that.
already using that, and it just, not even hot off the, we haven't even cashed it.
Yes, I heard Commissioner Henry say if everybody would come in and bring us a check, that would be great. I wish
Yeah.
we could, Commissioner Chadwick, I wish we could come in and give you a check. But as a reminder, the allocation we receive from the county to run the library doesn't 100% cover the bills. So if it wasn't for the support of outside entities, the library wouldn't be able to pay all of our bills. So that either means cutting staff, which then impacts service hours to the community, because we certainly can't not pay our utilities. So I think we stretch it pretty far.
And, we've talked quite a bit about, we don't know what the numbers are yet. I didn't get the percentage, but Brooke did, that our March sales tax numbers were off 11% from a year ago. March, for that month. Now, March was not a bad month. It didn't really
Certainly wasn't
hit
the worst.
until the end of March.
Yeah.
Mid to late March. So, and we won't get that April check, for several more weeks. So we don't have any idea how bad April's going to be. For that matter, May. We know May is going to be at least as bad as March, probably somewhere between March and April. And so on and so on.
Correct.
Property tax revenues, and these are two of our big ones, that can fluctuate. Property tax revenues, just a few years ago, 17 million plus annually. We're clear down to 14.3. And that's based on assessed valuation.
Okay.
So that's what we budgeted for, was 14.3. We're at 14.6. But we're also through all the pay dates.
I'm sorry, through all the what?
Pay dates.
Okay.
November 10th, December 31st, and May 11th were the pay dates that you could pay your property taxes. So we're about 300,000 up for this year. There will be a few stragglers still coming in that just didn't get paid by the 11th. Point being, I I think we're going to be able to pay for the 3% raise that we gave everybody this time last year. And not much more. So, you know, our cash burn rate has been pretty dramatic. And as I just looked at the numbers not 1 hour ago, we've had to pull up our reserves, and we hit them pretty hard. Now, that excludes the 3-point-something million that we have received. They're not in that number yet, of total revenues that we have received. And that 3 million plus is property taxes. And then we get another 3.7 million from PILT. So for this year, we're going to survive, and don't know, we have a $7.5 million reserve. We just don't know how far into it we're going to have to dip. So until we get more numbers, we're just not going to be able to put a stamp on anything.
Well, fairness
Fair
to
enough.
Lisa and Greta, they have done estimates on what we would have to do for a 10% and 20%, but they're not hard and fast, but it basically would be FTEs. It's not gonna be,
Yeah.
turn out these lights in that wing.
Yeah, with 92% of your
Right.
Yeah.
So- So a
dollars
cut is
going
staff.
We
to,
It's
have
personnel.
estimated what the FTE reductions will be
and, you know, we,
on that. And it's a rough number, but
we get to talk to a lot of commissioners from particularly western states in conference calls. That's a pretty regular thing. I'm hearing 20% reduction in revenues over and over in those calls. So are we going to be exempt from it? Probably not.
And a lot of those are not big mineral count states, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't
So,
have that.
you know, and like when we talk 20%, or if we talk 10%, or if we talk 25%, none of us knows. They don't know, we don't, time will tell. And that's exactly why I'm not here to say, and here's why you need to make sure, my request was this amount, and I need this amount, and that's what I respect that you, as a commission, have a tough job ahead of you. I just want to remind you, gently remind you, of the value of your public library and how that impacts your community. But to give you the utmost respect of, you're going to have to take what you get and divide it out equitably among the services that you're providing for your county. And I can certainly come and visit with you for an hour and tell you why the library is the place that needs to go. But it stands to reason that as a library director, that's where my passion is, and I'm going to tell you how we're so much better than every other entity and organization and department that's here telling you they need money. But instead, I'm sitting here saying, I know you're in a tough position. I do trust I am available for any questions. I'll get you whatever budget information you had. The reason I paused is like, you've never asked me for that. So I've always given you exactly, this is the money you give us, and this is how we spend that. And that's on that second sheet, right? That tells you this is how we spend that. And the full budget, you know, the month to month and the expenditures and where we are and what percentage at every month and budgeting it to revenue and all of that. It is available in our packets, but I'll certainly send that to you. But just be really aware that that is not necessarily the funding that we receive from you. And the funding we receive from our outside supporters is going to dip dramatically. And we can't count on other entities to fund a public library. But we'll do the best we can with what you give us. I understand it's going to be tough. I'm hoping it's not going to be a 20% cut, but you're hoping it's not going to be a 20% cut. And the Fair Board is hoping it's not going to be a 20% cut. And the organization that was here before me wants it not to be a 20% cut, and Tracy wants the same. I know that you will be equitable and fair in the way that you divide this. I know that as elected officials and community leaders, you want what's best for your community. So I am not going to do like previous years and come and say, we've got to have these because this is the impact on the library. This is not the time for that conversation. But any information you need, as you're making those decisions, as you start getting some numbers in, count on me to get that to you just as soon as you ask for that. But yes, we have been looking at what are the FTEs if we have a 20% cut? What is it if we have more than that? What is it if it's just 10? I do have those numbers kind of roughed out because sometimes it depends on when you're looking at FTEs, you know, is this staff weighted? Are they not going to take our insurance or, you know, or whatever? But we've got some pretty rough numbers figured there. I'm ready for tough conversations with staff. I'm hoping they're going to not be as tough as they can be.
Okay. Did you have a question, Paul?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. And this, first off, question for Tracy. In the 1 cent request, it's $25,000 more than their request. Their request was $298, and you've got $323.
This is based, my request figures are based on a 4-year schedule that was approved last year.
Oh, and we just didn't change the bottom figure for that year.
Okay, so we actually cut that back to 25, 25, 25,
Yeah, across the board.
instead of
So it's
50/50.
273,000 library materials and then 25 for
Yeah,
computer.
more matching what this request is.
And I think maybe that difference, if you recall, Commissioner Hendry, when I sent an email to you directly before maybe it was distributed, I'm not sure, I had an error, and then I corrected that. That kind of sounds like maybe that might have been what that
Okay.
was.
Go
That was
ahead.
last year.
And then the question for you. Of the 1 cent funds that were requested, there was 250 in there for the bus. Has that been expended?
So there was it 250 for the bus? I don't remember.
Yes.
So we have obligated that. It hasn't been spent, but we have signed a contract for the bookmobile. It's in production.
Okay.
It will be here anticipated in January, February, of course, with COVID and their providers and who they get their materials and equipment from to actually fit that out for us. You know, I don't know what that's going to be, but we're looking at probably the end of January, the beginning of February, and they invoice upon delivery. So there's no down payment. However, if you recall, part of that bookmobile is a partnership in payment. The city 1 cent, they've also designated funds. I believe it was 165. That's just off the top of my head. It may be off a little bit. For the bookmobile, and we can't draw down from the city funds until we actually receive an invoice on that. And of course, the city is planning for their cuts in what they're getting for their 1 cent funding. And they're not, from what I understand, implementing their 20% cut in their funding at this point. I'm thinking that's happening really soon. So in other words, if I had something that I had an invoice for right now that I submitted that had already been approved as part of my 1 cent plan with the city, that would be paid at that rate. And I think maybe next month is when they start their cut. But we don't have an invoice from the vendor yet, and so I can't send anything to the city. I did in a meeting with the city had with all their 1 cent recipient organizations. I did address the fact that I don't have an invoice to send to you, Mr. Napier. However, I've signed a contract based on the contract I've entered into with the city. And so he said, yes, okay, that's good to know, thank you. And I said, I probably won't have that invoice until late January, but we're on the hook for the full amount.
So do you have our 250?
Yes.
Okay. And if the city starts backtracking on this, governmental entities cannot enter into a contract unless the money's appropriated. They can't pull that appropriation back.
That's good to know. And that may be why he said, thank you for letting me know and give me, I mean, I felt like I had an assurance from him.
Okay.
But I
Yeah,
felt
they
like I had an assurance from him.
They should not be able to pull that back. I mean,
It was appropriated in the last,
yeah.
so.
So it should be on their books and in an
Yeah, it
appropriation
was
sitting
in-
there.
Was in the FY19, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I anticipate, just because you need the full picture, I anticipate, as the city starts cutting that 1 cent, just as a reminder, because you may not remember, I not only asked for bookmobile, but I also asked for some book funding for materials, which is, I say books, it's books and electronic materials and a variety of things. It was not a huge amount that I received from them, but it was really to re-engage a relationship that the library had with the city of Casper that had been several years that they weren't doing funding to the library. And so getting our foot back in the door, so to speak, I requested big, and as you recall, they had this whole different approach to how they awarded their 1 cent funds this last year. But we did receive book funding. My anticipation is that as they're looking at cutting everybody, I think they will honor the obligation for the bookmobile. And if they have to cut 1 cent funding, I'm thinking that's going to be materials. And I do want to point out to you, since the bulk of our material funding comes from you, that's an essential to running a library is to have materials.
It is, but that's, I mean, if our 1 cent is down, we just can't put as much into those. So it's like 273,000 and then 150 or 25,000 in computer equipment.
Right.
So I mean, there's areas that we may have to cut down just percentage wise because we don't have the people weren't out eating and we weren't generating sales
Right,
tax.
yeah, no, I understand
Okay.
that. I respect that.
Yes, for
And to be fair, again, you probably saw in the paper what the city is considering doing with furloughs.
I did see that.
We have not had a chance to talk about that amongst ourselves and whether that's something we want to consider. But that might be something that, along with the 10 to 20% that might be within your scope.
So I haven't with my assistant director or with Greta as a business manager, we haven't had an opportunity to look at that, to even discuss that with our board as well. But you know, in dire situations, you come up sometimes with dire plans and creative solutions, and we're going to be as creative as we can at how we approach staffing the library and providing services and what that's going to look like and feel like for that community. Yeah. We'll consider any and everything that we can.
Okay. Other questions? Give us a kind of an outline of you're going to start day after tomorrow, soft opening?
So we'll have a soft opening. We haven't been advertising the date for that because by definition, you don't advertise a soft opening or that's the opening, right? My managers came back last Friday. We hammered out some details in our staged reopening plan. Staff came back yesterday, and we have been debriefing from what happened while they were gone, what the plan is going forward, and we are actually training right now. They're doing module training. So for example, I mean, not to get into the weeds, but for example, one of the things that we will be doing different, so we're limiting the number of people that come in the library, but some people put books on hold, and then they want access to those. And in the past, then they come into the library and they come and get them. But if that's all they're coming for, that one body takes the space of somebody who could be in browsing for something else. They've already made their selection. So out at our bookmobile garage, we are going to be setting up a temporary drive-through that will run just parallel to the drive-through for the book drop. So the book drop will run right here, I'm gonna do it backwards, book drop will run right here, and just next to that, closer to the building, we will run a drive-through for holds. So we'll have staff out there that normally are somewhere else. We will have all the holds in the garage, so the bookmobile will be gone out at Road and Bridge. We're making arrangements with them to take care of that for us for a short time being, so that we can have a service out there, and people just drive up, we get their materials from them, they've already picked them, and we can still have more people come into the library. So that's training staff for a whole new paradigm of how we do, what are our protocols for this drive up, and how's that gonna look and feel, and what are you gonna do, and where are we getting the computer from that, and we have to have electricity, and you know, like you make one decision and there's 25 things that make that decision happen. And then you have to train your staff so they can do that with confidence instead of somebody driving up and they're like, not really sure what the heck I'm doing, but. So that's what we're doing today and tomorrow. We're training staff and we'll kind of debrief from that. What have I not thought of? Once they feel comfortable, we'll do a soft opening.
Okay.
Thinking probably Thursday or Friday. Our firm opening, we've already done our press release. It went out today. We are opening Tuesday at 9 o'clock. We'll be services to the community from 9 to 5. Super excited about that. We will have 9 to 11 for the high-risk individuals in our community, and then we'll open it up to the general public. We are best as we can. I mean, there's not going to be any hard and fast numbers of by floor, how many people are on each floor. We can't just open one floor. But we do have some plans for how to address, you know, making sure that we don't get overloaded in the children's area as opposed to the adult services on the second floor for reference, because some collections just draw more people. But anyway, yeah, so we'll have a soft opening that will be unannounced. Just, I encourage you to drive by if you're interested in coming in, drive by. If the closed sign on the big digital sign does not say closed, you might want to swing on in and see if you can walk up.
I did a book drop this morning and it was dead in there. There was nothing there but your two cars.
There you go.
But it was pretty early.
Yeah, pretty early. So the rest of the staff is there today. We actually had yesterday when we were training, like the Coke guy came, everybody's like, I've been watching and you have all these cars out there. And so, yeah, the staff is all back today
Okay.
and yesterday.
You've got the screening and everything going.
So we're working on signage to notify the public of what to expect. Some of that's going to be produced and we'll put up, and some of that we'll produce in-house. It just depends on what we need weatherproofing on and what we can, you know, just print and laminate. We are screening staff already. We're using the form that Mr. Kowalski sent over. But we're kind of tweaking, with his permission and Danielle's. We are going to put ours as a Google form. So we won't have congestion as they come in through that one area, everybody waiting, and they're carrying all this stuff and waiting to sanitize and fill out their form. So we're encouraging staff to either complete it online as a Google form, sit in the parking lot, complete it, it goes to the cloud. If they answer yes to any of those questions, you know, the screening questions like, are you running a fever, or have you been exposed to, or, you know, those basic questions that we're screening for. If it answers yes on the Google document, it automatically kicks up a flag that says, contact Lisa Scroggins immediately, here's her number, and then I'll be monitoring that on my phone, on my computer, and checking for that. But yes, so we have our screening in place. We've also been screening for vendors as they come into the building. And board.
All right.
And our board.
All right. Well, anything else? I'm glad you're getting open. I think the community,
too.
hopefully they'll be safe. We don't need a bunch more cases, yes.
So let's end this on a good note. Everybody likes to compare us to Cheyenne.
Okay. You want me to? So during the closure, our library was able to continue processing holds that were already on place and in the queue, and that's a deep, big number. There's a deep well there of people that already had things on holds. We've been mailing those out, so we've had some, when I say staff has been working at home, not all of them, so we've had somebody come in and or a couple of people, and they call each person and they say, you know, okay, Commissioner Hendry, we have this item, you have it on hold, would you like us to mail that to you? So we've been mailing those holds out and getting those to the patrons. We have also been doing, we have a program called Books by Mail, which is for homebound individuals. We continued with that program for people who, so like everybody's homebound now. So we didn't open up the whole application process. But for those who are considered homebound, usually for health reasons and sometimes for age and they're no longer able to drive, we've continued with that program. We have recorded story times from the library initially, and then when they were working at home, we had staff members recording story times and exercise classes and some things like that from home, and those have been live streamed and really watched a lot. In addition to that, some of, like, my daughter goes to CCA, her art teacher happened to mention, man, I'll have to make a video on how to attach an assignment, upload it to the Google Classroom, because when I go online and look for that, it's intended for adults, and some of the pictures on the guy's screen when she looks on YouTube weren't really appropriate for what she wanted to send out to students. And I said, I happen to know somebody who works at the public library, and we're here to help you. So I gave that to my adult services department, and they created videos, and the school used them and shared them with each other, and that helped the school be more efficient. We have been printing 3D masks for frontline personnel in the medical community, and as a part of the Wyoming Technology Coronavirus Coalition, and of all the entities that only have one printer, because we're not going to compete with UW or Array down in Cheyenne, right? But of all of the entities that have one 3D printer, the Toronto County Library leads the charge on how many we've produced. We've also, working from home, we sewed masks and did homemade masks and provided those to WBI, to Donnell's Candies, to the Rescue Mission, to Summit Medical, and then turned them in at the Mills Police Department just for distribution as WTCC saw fit. So I say all that to say, when you said, how are things in Cheyenne? That's not what the Cheyenne Public Library did. It's not a competition, but they didn't have any services at that time. They started doing story times, gosh, it's just been recently. Maybe about a month after we did. So we were still accomplishing a lot and doing a lot, filling the My Free Little Libraries in the community, taking boxes of large print books and materials from our friends of the library that would have been sold to help support us for next year. We took those to Meals on Wheels and gave them out for distribution to the people who are their clientele. We took boxes to the Skyline Towers apartment complex next to the library, and just a lot of different places. So we've been out impacting our community in a positive way, in a different way, but in a positive way. And so we're excited about that.
Good.
So thanks for that reminder, and let me end on a nice note.
Any other questions? Well, thanks.
So do you want this? I have several copies of this stage reopening plan. Like I say, it kind of gets in the weeds of more details than you want, but if you want to look at it, I certainly made copies to make them available.
On the
for
way
you.
out, Matt is out there. He
Okay.
might be interested in that.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah. We're just glad you're able to do it.
We're glad to be open. I'm
Okay.
going to tell you what, it's such an odd feeling. So super glad to be open. Going to use every precaution we can so that we stay open.
Lots of sanitizer.
Lots of hand sanitizer. Thanks to Backwards and to Matt for helping
Okay.
us get that, yeah.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You can tell that health department, they can come on in, the hot seat, you got it all
All right.
warmed up for them.
So it's interesting, everybody's coming up with these detailed plans, and the places that have gone overboard, they're actually making it worse. Go to Home Depot and walk, look at how many people are trying to get in and choke point.
Oh, really?
And they're asking you to go certain direction, and don't do this and don't do that.
I went to Menards, but I didn't go to
Well, they
Home
won't let you
Depot.
in. In Home Depot, they're counting people in, and so people are standing outside.
Our microwave blew up.
At your house?
We're getting pretty soft around here. We can't deal without a microwave. I mean,
Are you talking about in the break room or in your house?
no, the house. Went out last night, and she blamed me. I cooked her a baked potato
In the microwave.
and in the microwave. Hey. And yeah, oh yeah, I put it in one of those little bags we got from the Amish deal, and anyway, did it just right. It worked out great. I gave her half her baked potato, and then she went and just touched it, and it blew up, and it was my fault.
Gracious host. It's where the royalties
The
sit.
microwave.
They tried to charge me 20
Do you have a
bucks to
seat
get in.
anywhere else?
To get in here?
Yep,
Well, they're following orders.
They must know who you are.
it's just Haley. Haley's the famous one.
Yeah, they said, oh,
Haley
you
is the
know
famous
her.
So have you seen the ones that we bought with the COVID funds? They're actually quite nice.
Oh, yeah, okay.
They look a little,
I'm not a very good fan of white.
Crown Royal bags.
I have, now that's a good place to go skinning. Yeah. Crown Royal mask.
Well, they come in all different colors now.
Really? Oh, yeah,
actually
with the
gonna bring
apple
one
and
today.
all that.
Apple and the peach and the vanilla and.
That's ridiculous. Thank you.
Were you guys here with Dr. Dell today at
Yes.
10? Yeah, I didn't see, you couldn't tell based on the angle of the camera. I was like, I wonder who's in the room. Thank you.
And it, who does that go out to? Is it, are we?
Live YouTube.
Got it.
We're going. We're live. And then we have a few people on the phone, I think.
From this morning, things may have just gotten more interesting. That's all I will say.
On your contacts or people?
Both. All of the above.
Yep.
Puppy dog.
So those calendars were through our American Public Health Association, really talking about preparedness. We used them for education components, but things that you should be prepared about, and, you know, they're nice pictures, so.
Everyone
wanted
likes
you-
puppies.
Yeah, where's the cows? Where's the beef? Come on.
You know, I don't know, they probably don't acknowledge that.
So so are we taking,
You can absolutely take those. I think we're working with Stacy to figure out like the distribution of those. We have 20,000 of those. We got some at the health department just for some of the people that we serve, et cetera. Little lighter fabric.
and then these are washable and like 4 or 5 times, or when they start
Which side goes out?
going
Doesn't
away?
matter.
You change, every other
had to
day you
ask
change it, you know?
Yeah.
Hell, you do that when you're,
The
oh,
state's
never mind.
getting 500,000.
With my socks.
So, Anna,
Who does that go to?
FEMA's gonna be distributing 500,000 masks to the state of Wyoming. And the state's gonna distribute them for businesses. And we had to go like 500,000, did you say? Not 50,000? I said, no, 500,000.
so I don't know if you guys have any extras of these, but Community Action Partnership was just in. I remember how she was talking about PPE is so light. I just wonder if they might be able to be helped with these too. So I don't know if you guys,
Yeah,
No,
they were
Marilyn.
talking about they didn't have enough PPEs to go down. There are people they're serving, and they go down to the mission and stuff. And so that's Community Action Partnership might be one place that needs a little.
Teresa might be able to.
thank you.
Okay,
Yep.
that's great. Thanks for that reminder, Brooke.
And Anna, just so you know, the Department of Energy also sent out, or made available, just a whole ton of masks to oil field or whoever. They're not this nice.
Yeah, this
It's
is
like
really-
Hanes on your face. It's his face underwear, but
That's like
it's
a-
something.
Yeah,
It's like Hanes on
glad
your
you
face.
said
No,
that. I was
seriously.
thinking of, I'm glad you said that.
Is that recording?
It is.
It's like everything is great land. When we did that permit practice.
Oh.
In the land of great. Yeah.
All good.
But yeah, just so you know,
Okay,
those are
perfect.
being sent out too by the Department of Energy.
Well, Annie, you had quite a couple of months. You're back in your office, or did you get EOC back cranked up?
No, I'm still in the office. I've been there for 2 days and
Okay,
not really come out too terribly much. It's been really quite busy. Yeah, it's remarkably busy. I never imagined, you know, public health never really was in the spotlight. We're kind of always over here and we just kind of do our thing. Yeah,
we're glad to have you.
well, thank you.
I mean, the meetings
see
and
if we
stuff, we
survive.
did, you know, sometimes we're anxious to get things open, and you are too, but you want to keep people safe, and your doctors want to keep people safe, so
Yeah.
pretty important. Public health is pretty important.
It's kind of right in the middle of it all, so.
bet.
Kind of, there's just been very different stages of how we've dealt with it, like preparing for it, and once we started getting, and we had no tests, then we got tests, and then we had, you know, our first case of COVID in the community. Planning, we've been functioning very much on a dime. Haley and I were up at the EOC, and Tammy held the fort down at the health department, but we would have to change just so rapidly, just trying to meet the needs of where it needed to be, like between people not knowing how to interpret the orders, following the orders, to testing. Testing is still a main big thing. I think it's gonna take on a whole new light of what we, like, I feel like we're going to have like a nurse that's just dedicated to COVID testing. That's not been done before in the clinic. There's lots of projects, so I feel like there's been, they call it like 8 levels of hell. That's pretty much because every week has had some different twist. This one obviously is interpretation of the orders, lots of complaints, a lot of requests, and we meet with the doctors on Wednesday mornings at 8:30, and we'll start to go through all of those. If anything, I would say that our partnerships in the community have significantly changed. Obviously, I had a relationship with all of you, and most of you knew who I was, but pretty sure now, like, a lot of people know who I am. All of the city council knows who we are. So, yeah, there's a lot of things that have occurred, but the school district, we did have difficulties at times utilizing their buildings. But we're right alongside each other, meeting almost 2 to 3 times a week, just trying to help guide them. Right now, we're just working on people being able to graduate, and then we'll take them to summer school, and then preparing for what the fall looks like. So as you guys send me stuff, we just put that in a, agenda form of what we'll deal with the Wednesday, and kind of go from there. Right now, I think we're kind of locked down for just, like, there will be no additional variances. Obviously, a hard decision was made when we canceled the car show this weekend. That came from Dr. Harris. Due to the fact that we had, at that time, we were at 11 positives. I think we're up to 16 since Thursday. We have an additional situation that we're dealing with, that in fact the state may be coming here to help figure some things out.
Okay.
We've also had a lot of changes at the health department itself, like our maternal child health, our adult health. We're not able to go out and do the visits, so that's taken on a whole new appearance in what we do, and when will that change. So I think we're in a very different position than we have ever been. Not knowing what the future looks like exactly. It's kind of almost like deja vu. A year ago, I was sitting before you, not knowing what I got myself into. And
Now you really don't.
And here we are, and I feel like, I went back to the health department, and it's very overwhelming, and like starting kind of new again. Like, it's like I've done this, but it's different kind of. So changes, and so we recognize the significant impact that we've had on, well, not we, but the economic impact that it's done to the community. So I think that's why I sent you 2 different versions. The city did ask us to take a cut. You did not, so I offered you opportunity to give us a cut if you needed to. I don't feel that we can sustain too much, because I'm not going to be able to really let any staff members go. Everybody, I mean, we're all pretty tired. There's not a lot of, everybody has multiple roles over there that they do just on a dime. And so cutting any additional staff, I don't know how we're going to be prepared for the fall. So that's why you got 2 different versions. But on the generator pad was poured this morning, so we
coming.
might actually get that soon.
Great.
So,
Good. The old one, you traded that in? How did
No,
Steve
actually-
do that?
Steve is moving it out. He told me that there is actually, he's already got a place that's going. I
Okay.
don't remember where he told me.
I can't
but
remember either, but, okay.
It's already spoken for, within the county, one of the county buildings. I don't remember which one it was, because he came and told me when I was in the middle of about 10 things, so I didn't remember. But he's hoping that next couple weeks, everything will be
And the medicine, you said that you had some medicine that might have got a little warm. Was it all right?
It was all right.
Good.
We were about 20 minutes from it being
Not all right.
not all right. So, we got lucky. It just
Good.
happened that me and another staff member got there early that day and we were able to run some cords and, because some of the building was on, some of the building was off.
Oh, yeah, okay,
So,
good.
Well, you can see that through your support, you're able to support us in our administration. Environmental health, which is essential to things that go on in the county with septics, et cetera. Disease prevention clinical services. Even though we've had COVID, we've had a definite increase on our STDs. So nothing slowed down there. Maternal and child health, and then the prevention components in the adult health programming. So you can see that it's broken out amongst those. We also have city funds that match into those as well. I gave you a service directory that was created last fall. Obviously, I'm not giving you a annual or a fiscal report. That kind of fell along not the highest of priorities at this time. We were looking at changing it to match our fiscal year of July through June, where it's always been done before the year, and it doesn't give a clear picture of what we're doing. So we have that in the works, but it got suspended due to everything else that we were doing.
Okay.
And then I brought Haley because there are some changes there, and should you, which is weird, we've had a lot of conversations about this. You know, the state will give you the funds, and we would hope that we would be granted those as well. And Haley's doing a little bit different process that I'll have her explain.
Yeah, so we actually.
Pull that mic over to you.
So this prevention grant was allocated during the legislative session at level funding for all counties. So that means that this next cycle, the funding requirements will look the exact same from the state. We've asked if we would receive cuts additionally now, and they said not this go around. So they are expecting that level funding, which is really good news. We were prepared for them to cut that, but it looks like we'll make it through another 2-year cycle of them leaving it. That funding comes through both state and federal at the Department of Health. And in this last cycle, we had subcontracted originally with Mercer Family Resource Center to do some of those subcontracted classes and work. This time, we decided to do an RFP process just so that we could get kind of the specifics of what we would need in our application out of those so that we can just kind of plug and play. Last time, we had to do a lot of work on the back end to try to plug that all in. And they are requiring that work plan up front this time for this next cycle. So when we turn in our application, I'll have to have that complete. In the previous cycle, that was due a year into the contract, so.
Mr.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
I forget what I was going to ask. I'll come back to it. Keep talking and I'll think of it.
Okay. So that RFP process, we actually released an additional amount of funding last year. It was $180,000. This year, we put up the opportunity for up to $225,000, hoping we could do a larger partnership like we did with Mercer, and then also maybe fund some smaller individual community-wide projects. So looking at things like, you know, like if the Boys and Girls Club wanted to do some special kind of education program that would cost $10,000, being able to support something like that additionally, so.
Okay.
That process is due the 22nd, and our grant is due the June 15th, so I'll be hustling to turn it all around.
Have you had a lot of, that's what I was going to ask, is have you, if the RFPs aren't yet in, are you having a lot of interest from organizations who do want to partner with health?
There's been a decent amount, I think, of people who are interested. I just don't know that people will go through the process. As you can imagine, because it's state and federal funds, the things that we have to have them do are pretty extensive. So they have to do a lot of research and basically prove that whatever they're trying to do is evidence-based and it meets all the criteria for those federal funds. So I would say a handful, but not like crazy amounts.
Mr. Chairman, to follow up. So the people who do respond to the RFP, is favor given to organizations in Natrona County, or could somebody from Sheridan or Laramie come in and say, we can offer this?
Only Natrona County.
Okay, thank you.
That's good. You've got the money from the state, and they said it was gonna be the same. I can't imagine us withholding that from you guys. But, is there any other money that you can go after, like federal money?
So pretty much all of the prevention money that, that comes to the state actually from the feds has to be funneled through the state. It's not something that we can apply for as a community. There is a couple of grants that you can apply for as a community in the primary stages of setting up prevention work. But it's my understanding that our community applied for those long ago, like
Okay.
back in the 90s, so those are not options for us.
Okay. Well, if there's anything, I mean, health-wise is gonna be the name of the game nationally, and even if it's not prevention, I think there's gonna be a lot of health-type grants getting out there. So it'd be good to get in on as many as you can.
We have expanded our cancer funding. We have the Wyoming Cancer Resource Services grant that we were awarded. And additionally, we asked, or we applied to be the Wyoming Cancer Coalition, which means it'll take those groups and work statewide to bring them together. So we are awarded that grant as well. And we're always looking for ways to, diversify, et cetera. We did spend, before all of this, a significant amount of time doing, kind of evaluating who we are, planning, strategic planning of, who we want to be, what services we want to do, and we really broke those down, and I'm hoping to be able to share that relatively soon. We just weren't able to finish it, obviously, but our job or our mission is really to protect the community. And, it even got to the point of the superhero protecting and different things like that. What is it that we need to do? Little did we know what was coming our direction at that time. All of our state funding appears to be secure. We've heard nothing of the other side. Maternal Child Health is about to have a significant change. They no longer will do nurse-family partnership, so they're letting that program go. It will be sunsetting on June 30th. They'll start with MESH, which means something, but I can't tell you what it is at the moment. But it is a different program, and the state hasn't been able to do training with us yet. So one will end and the other will go. We'll continue to still provide the same services until we get fully on board with the new programming called MESH. So that is a new big change that is coming. And I think adult health is also having some significant changes through Medicaid and Medicare.
They're starting to consider working, they used to do monthly visits with each person that's on the long-term care waiver, and the state is supposedly, they haven't got all the guidance out yet, changing that to a in-person visit once every 3 months, and then the other 2 months are phone visits. But I think with the COVID issue, they've had canceled all the home face-to-face visits. And I think they're evaluating how that worked out in the different counties, and maybe even changing those plans even further, because now, everybody's kind of gotten used to how do we check in on a patient via phone or like a teledoc situation. And so that guidance is still kind of waiting for full approval of what they're going to do.
Well, and that's the vulnerable population too that you were going to see.
Yes.
So it's really tough.
So telehealth is actually one thing. We do receive funding from the Kinski Foundation, and they have been asking us about telehealth, et cetera, what that looks like. We all know that internet is not the best in all places in town. So there'll be a lot of work that goes in behind all of that to make sure that it will work for us.
Okay. Other question?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So on the environmental side, does that remain pretty much steady going through this and? Or is that a topic that you just really kind of?
The health inspection portion of that. So they did suspend for a period of time. I will be perfectly honest with you, trying to find our way because we have, so they follow the food safety rule, making sure, all the temperatures and the storage and the serving and all of those kinds of things. Now we have added in this orders that have, face coverings and those kinds of things. But we have the authority to do all of those other things and septics and inspections and all those stuff. But the orders is actually more of a legal thing. It's actually a misdemeanor because it's the governor's orders. So we're working on figuring what that looks like and how that will work best. But septics are starting to pick back up. They've started going back and doing their routine inspections. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Question?
Terry? So the grant funding, prevention grant, if it's not spent, it has to be returned? It's not something we can carry over?
Correct.
Okay.
I would anticipate that they will spend out all of the federal funds and whatever's left is actually state general funds, so we're not able to carry it over.
So all the CARES Act monies, have you accounted for all your additional time and I guess even a broader question, you say you're talking about probably having to dedicate somebody solely to it. That is not in your budget right now. And I guess I'm asking you if there's a way that you can do some stuff that would capture more of those funds that might help you.
So with our emergency preparedness program, we were prepared for a situation like this, and there is a whole entire budget that I have created. So anybody that was working on COVID had a specific time code that they would put their time to. So everything got automatically, from the very beginning, time coded to that budget. Additionally, anything that we purchased, i.e. these masks, hand sanitizers that we had to get extra of, swabs, cotton balls, Band-Aids, whatever that might help with that testing, so it all got coded to that budget. So I have a very good tracking system already in place. I can tell you down to the penny how much we've spent on COVID at this point in time. Moving forward, no, we don't have a person budgeted at this time for the testing.
It's just a thought. This isn't going away.
No.
And, it says if you haven't got it budgeted. So I don't know.
So the money that the 100,000 that we were awarded, we have almost spent half of that because that was our media campaign to wear face coverings, et cetera. That money's gonna go pretty quickly because we are preparing to do mass vaccination. So needles, sharps, cotton balls, Band-Aids, all of those kinds of things, that money will be gone. So, I mean, even our emergency preparedness program will change drastically. One of the new job duties will be specifically related to COVID. So kind of that realignment and what that looks like is really where we're at. We haven't filled some of our positions. So yes, we need to figure that one out, what that looks like long-term. Right now, the state is doing testing with all our long-term care facilities and assisted living facilities. That's on them, but we can help with that. But we still cover 13 different agencies throughout the county, city, of if they need a test, we go out and do it. So it's going to get interesting. But looking to figure that out, I think, is we haven't got there yet.
And the other reason I say this is because you look at the tranches of money that they're talking about, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3.
Yep.
And if you can figure out how you can fall into one of those, there's going to be a lot of money in these pots that is not going to get expended, especially in certain pots where it's really needed. The money is, unless the Treasury really opens stuff up, there's going to be a lot of money left on the table that's going to go back to the federal government.
Absolutely.
And you know, if there's a way that there's a need that needs to be filled, you know, Stacy said FEMA's given her quite a thing to follow. But if there's some stuff there that you think might fall into it and you need help, let us know.
Absolutely. So I appreciate your notes that you send me because it does glean like some ideas of what people are talking outside of my bubble. But we are seeing a difficulty with people applying for jobs. And we hear it all the time for our restaurants and everything like that. With that funding that they receive, nobody really wants to go to work because they can stay home and make just as much. And then Tammy tells me that's
Or
going to go
more.
till January.
They're trying to extend
Extend
it.
it to
Yeah,
January.
it was supposed to be 13 weeks.
It's mind-blowing. So, but we've seen that even at our own facility, we have 2 positions that we have not been able to, you know, do. And one of the new grant opportunities that we have has to have a person hired. And, I mean, we did interviews for 3 people yesterday and 2 of them showed up. So,
Now, your expenses for COVID, you keep track of them and send them in independently of the county, or you send them to the county?
So there's actually, right now, I'm keeping them independently. Stacy's got that work group that we're gonna do the FEMA application for. And I'm working with her because none of our salaries can be used on that 100,000 that we got from the state. So I have that tracking separately than the other items. And that's what I will be working with Stacy to submit to get hopefully FEMA reimbursement of those funds, because that's where we're manning the hotline, and the testing was pretty significant. There were times when we had to have 4 people on that hotline just because of the amount of calls.
Well, and you were getting calls from other counties too at one time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we were even getting some calls from the state, to be honest, because I think we were really ahead of the curve based on where the state was at, because we had our call center up before anything was going on, because we figured this was coming down the pipes. I'm listening into a lot of the state calls and realizing that you're still catching up to Natrona County in that aspect, which I think is tremendous, that we all pulled together and was able to put things into place more quickly than a lot of the other communities. And so, you know, the amount of time spent, you know, doing those things, you know, Haley up being the PIO, and just the amount of testing, we pulled in a lot of nurses. The nurses off of Adult Health and MCH, we could pull them in to help with testing along the way, because we could rotate them, because they weren't going out to do visits.
Right.
So that gave us a little bit of leeway on that. But as, you know, I think everything's good. I think Stacy and that group's meeting soon,
Good.
and we'll do those applications.
Well, anything that doesn't go through that, we'll get the numbers to our Tracy right
Okay.
away. And I don't know when we're gonna be able to turn that in, but someday we need to tell them where it is. Any other questions? Brooke?
Mr. Chairman, so this is just a broad question. So I look at your budget, and I appreciate that you did 2 versions, and I see one as a 5% reduction. And I know I had a conversation with Carter, and I knew the request from the city side was coming. But I think just overall, what do you need? I mean, I feel like priorities are going to have to change, and I think programs are going to shift and maybe go away, and things are obviously coming online. So just, like, globally, what do you need? You're obviously in a unique position and pioneering your own path, and how do we best support you, even if that's not financially? Is it advocacy? Is it community? I'm hearing a lot about potentially more PSAs and wearing face coverings, things like that. Like, COVID or not, what do you need? Like, if you just peel back all the layers.
well, I think the most difficult thing is we don't know what the expectations of us are come July 1st with all of the different, you know, maternal child health, adult health. We don't know. They haven't talked to us about that yet. I mean, the clinic side with the immunizations and STDs and all those kinds of things will stay pretty solid. But I think, job alignments will kind of possibly change a little bit. It's probably more unknown than I think it was a year ago for me, to be honest with you. So I don't know what I need because I don't know what tomorrow looks like. We obviously, for whatever reason, we're sitting really good right now, but I think people haven't gone out and they haven't traveled. We haven't bought anything because everybody has just been doing COVID and nothing else. So, national programs, they have cut almost all of the conferences that we used to go to. So like what that looks like is really going to be hard to evaluate over the next year. Your support from all of you has been amazing. I feel very comfortable reaching out and asking any one of you questions. Obviously, we got to know each other a lot more at the 9 o'clock call for the last several weeks, but your support and your guidance that we've had has been really instrumental. And I don't think we would be where we are if we didn't have the support from you all. So there's not an answer that I have for you right now.
Okay, and that's fair. I just thought if we were outside of formalities and there was something on your mind, I would love to make sure that we hear
and
that.
we have really graciously, you provided, so aerosolized bleach or cleaning stuff really has an impact on me, so I apologize. Because I'm just getting something and that's why I can't talk. But HR has been amazing, being able to utilize Danielle. I call her randomly, like, hey, I don't know what to do with this. So that's been very helpful. You know that we're involved in a lawsuit right now, and that is about to become even more complex. So having the ability to have access to Eric, like, I feel like we utilize your policies and procedures and everything that you have at the county level. We use a lot of that to help guide us. I don't know how things were before me. I feel like just as an observation is we kind of ran our own selves, but now we're really looking to how can we more align with the city and the county, work with them, rather than being so independent. I mean, you could have seen it at the EOC. There was always a bicker between the county employees and the city employees. Like, we would just kind of, tease each other back and forth because, but then you have us that's, both, so we're split. So we couldn't be where we are, and we are starting to align more. Eric has talked to us. We have LGLP, but we know about WARM. Forrest coming to the meetings and just hearing what we talk about and know what's going on outside of us is very helpful. So we want to be more in alignment with you all on both the city and the county level.
Mr. Chairman, just one more follow-up. So I know the city's asking across the board, and I know Forrest is your liaison, but we're big fans of health here. And I'm curious, I know that we did the presentation for the generator and we talked about, we had flu vaccination breakdowns of the percentage of people from Casper versus Natrona. But I think as we start like really getting to the nitty-gritty of the dollars piece for going into next fiscal, I mean, I know for the last several years we've funded to a greater degree, and I would be willing to make calls to council members or do whatever it takes to see, one, if I don't know if we can keep you whole or if they can increase it, but I guarantee you there are a larger number of people who live in Casper who are utilizing your services than the county. So if we can be of assistance in any way from that I just think it'd be helpful if we had utility rates just based on, even if it's city-county split. So Forrest, I don't want to step on your toes, but I feel very passionately that, the city, when it started, the city funded more, and then for the last decade or so we have, and I think it's a real conversation to have at this point of who uses the service and why it's important. So anyways, I just was hoping we could get those numbers, and if we can help in any way with that, I would be interested.
I mean, we utilize, your building is who we have, and Steve and crew, they're the ones that come and take care of it, so, you do way more than what's on the bottom line.
Well, we'll try to keep it that way.
Absolutely.
Other question? Well, we don't know right now what it's going to look like. We're gonna know, we may know in hopefully 2 or 3 weeks what our budget's gonna look like. And I know what Casper did, but they don't really know what it's gonna look like either yet. It's a ballpark yes.
I think, Mr. Chairman, they're predicting right around 20% right now.
Yeah, and that's probably a good figure for us, but we don't know yet. And so we'll sure be in touch.
Well, we appreciate everything, and I know there's a lot of work yet to be done, so.
Well, thanks for all you guys and for all the hard work and boy, this has really been something for you. If you live through this one, you can handle anything now. This is all downhill.
I didn't think I would live past when we had to cancel the basketball tournament.
Yeah.
And here you are, 2 months later.
Well, it's all downhill now. It's pretty easy.
Nothing scares me anymore, so
Yeah.
past that point. But,
Okay.
all right,
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for everything you do down there.
Yeah, so I guess we were talking about some things that will stay in the back here.
Okay. All right, we're kind of over the budget stuff.
Is Eric gonna come in?
Is what?
Eric's coming in?
We could call him up. Yeah, he wants to have an exec.
Do we wanna
Michelle,
go-
could you
go
text
downstairs to do
Eric and
that?
tell him that we're done
Yeah,
with the
this
main
is-
stuff?
We don't need a motion to adjourn this part.
No, we'll just keep going.
Yeah, we just need a motion to go into executive
we-
session.
We're done with the budget part. Do we need to, we could turn off the YouTube, but then Eric kind of wanted that left on, didn't he? So we'll just leave it on. All right. So
Well,
is,
and we can move our exec session downstairs.
you're right. Anybody got anything else, COVID related or whatever?
I can talk about it a little bit now, or wait till the meeting tonight in the commissioner's comments, but one of the things that came out last night at Fair Board meeting, so far, 300,000 cattle have been shot and pushed into pits because they can't get them processed. That's as of yesterday, 300,000 cattle.
Have you been to the grocery store? You can hardly get meat.
Yeah,
Well,
isn't that
They,
something?
they can't get it processed. And there's 20,000 head of sheep hanging in coolers. Wyoming sheep hanging in coolers right now that can't get processed. Some stunning numbers and what it's done to the ag community.
Well, and a lot of us don't even know because we haven't sold anything yet. They sell in the fall, and I know the prices are bad, but we don't know how bad yet.
Well, and there's, the feedlots have nowhere to go with them.
Yeah.
They're literally nowhere to take those animals.
It's really something.
I heard the same in Iowa, so my whole family's back there, and my grandpa used to build the hog confinement for production, and they're killing baby pigs like it's nothing. I mean, because all the Tyson plants, they had such outbreaks of COVID that they've shut them down, so same thing, no processing. So we'll be eating a lot of chicken, maybe.
Well, I know, we just picked up 5, $35 a weanling.
On pigs?
Yeah,
Yeah, and they were fat,
Yeah.
big ones.
very decent. So, and we're gonna butcher ourselves because we can't get into the,
Are you taking orders?
funny thing is we've already sold 2 of them.
Well, I'm just one person. It'd take me a lifetime to eat a whole one, but
And should the fair cancel, there's gonna be a lot of
yeah.
inexpensive 4-H and super, super good product
Yep.
available.
Inexpensive? Can I quote you on that?
Yes.
They're gonna be pretty good price.
Well, it's not gonna be, sale price, let me put it that way.
Well, it may not be.
That's bad too, because those kids, they're relying on that
Oh,
money.
yeah.
A lot of them for going into
Mom and
college or
dad
whatever.
help feed them and the kids get the money.
Right?
Yeah, I know, all about it.
So I don't know if we can bring this up. I think, was there some discussion, did we want to talk about building permits and process? Is that something that we can do or no?
Yeah, we can do that.
I see
a
Jason's
guy
in.
right back there. Come on up, tell them what's new.
I'm not used to talking through a mask yet.
Looks like a modified
It's all
welder's
right.
hood.
We're socially distanced up here.
There you go. So yeah, building permits continue to come in, and I pulled the numbers just before the meeting here in a week. We've done 73 inspections, we've issued 66 permits, and just under $12,000 worth of revenue in the past week. So we continue to be busy. We had got the inspection times down to 2 days out. Unfortunately, we've now slipped. We had an inspector that has some family issues, so he's not able to work as much, and so we're now out about a week on inspections again, just in about a day and a half. It went from 2 days to nearly 7 days. So we did get Smith Consulting Services, that revised contract is on the agenda tonight. There was some modifications he wanted to make in that we thought would be best to send through, but he was able, at his own risk, to begin some work. He started Thursday afternoon, and so he's got, 5 days under his belt, and I've been putting him to work. I haven't seen his hours yet, but I wouldn't be a bit surprised if we weren't 30 or 40 hours into his services already, just in this time. He's working the weekends, going through those plan reviews. We're trying to get the airport terminal reviewed and get that plan out. The crash house at the airport, the fire station, get it reviewed and out the door. Plus, we've got another 20-some thousand square foot commercial building they want to build in Evansville that's oil field related.
Really?
And they're wanting a permit really quickly on it too. So,
Good.
things are still very, very busy in the building department.
Okay. Any question?
Jim, did you have anything on that? No?
Not on that.
Okay.
So if you had a different question.
Nope.
Go ahead.
Jason, kind of switching gears a little bit here, but the lodge up on the mountain, did you we talked about a little bit about having somebody go up there and take a look at that and see what we could do, try to save it, or whatever we could do?
Yeah, so
Were you able to?
on Monday, that would be yesterday, we met up there with a structural engineer, Bob Lower PC here in town. We looked at that structure. Tim Petrie, our Parks Director, was there. Matt with Risk Management was there. And we went through that structure, and he's looking at what can be done as both a temporary fix, so to speak, to be able to get us where we can get back in the building. And we talked about moving the building, and he's looking at those options. Initial investigation is showing that essentially the outside walls are what is settling, and the inner structure is what stayed put. And so as the walls come down, the trusses in the middle are what's holding things up. There is some adjustment in those inner trusses, so there is maybe an opportunity to go in there and adjust those trusses down. Log homes are expected to shrink, so they are built on adjustment. The unknown is, as you adjust those inner trusses, what does that do to all the doors and windows, all the openings? And then, of course, what is the cost associated with doing that? The dormer on the north side has completely come out of the building now. It was slightly in there when we first posted it, and yesterday when we were up there, the dormer's totally come loose. So now it's the roof sheeting is what's holding that dormer on. We crawled underneath it. There is appreciable amount of water in the crawl space. We've got to figure out a sump pump type system if we're gonna use that. There was some construction at the one end of it that is substandard and has settled, that I'm expecting he's gonna recommend that we remove that foundation portion and rebuild that east end if we're gonna reoccupy it. Don't have cost estimates for you. He hoped to have his report to us, I believe he said in 8 days. I know Tim's taken the lead on that, but we did go up there and look at that, and
You said you also looked at maybe even moving it out and putting it on a pad or something else. He's gonna look at that.
he's gonna look at the possibility of being able to move it. I know Tim has reached out to really the only house mover we had access to based out of Laramie. And they are awful resourceful contractors. I mean, a house mover, this particular one, apparently has even moved a quote-unquote historic stone home that was built out of stone. So it's kind of amazing what they can get accomplished. So we'll wait and see what the structural engineer comes back and tells us. And then I told Tim I would help him get some cost estimates, and then we can come back to you guys and give you an update on costs and ideas moving forward.
The dormer that's moved off now, the roof is still there, but can the water get clear through into the building?
Yeah.
If it rains or whatever?
Yeah.
So we gotta do something, or it's really done.
Right.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, so is the
Yes.
building right now just closed, or is it, I don't know the difference between closed and condemned. Does condemned mean you cannot repair?
Condemned is a step further than what it is right now. Right now, it's posted as what's referred to as a dangerous building, and you're not, nobody's allowed to occupy it. So right now, we're just in a hold pattern, and so that gives time to get a plan together, decide if we're gonna fix it. Condemned is really a much harsher word, and I would use that in a phrase when we're talking about you've been ordered to demolish the building.
Okay.
And we're not to that point on this building. We're still just it's an unsafe structure, and nobody is to occupy it. And we've done a great job of boarding that up so that folks can't utilize it while we figure out a plan.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Since you're here, we talked about trying to speed things up or maybe looking at minimizing some of the inspections to try to keep you on schedule and whatnot. Have you gotten any further with that?
Absolutely. In the last week, I've instituted on roof inspections. We used to do a mid-roof inspection, so after somebody peels a roof off, we look at the decking, and then we look at the underlayment, and then we go back and do a final inspection. What we've instituted with it now is the contractors are to take pictures of the underlayment and the decking beforehand, turn that into us, and then when they call for a final inspection, we're only doing the finals when we're already in the neighborhood, so we're not making a special trip to Coal Creek or Dempsey Acres just for a final roof. We're gonna hold those inspections until we're already in the neighborhood doing another inspection, and then we'll do that final inspection. So, haven't received a lot of feedback from contractors on that yet, but that's what we've instituted to try to speed things along.
How much time do you think you'll be saving on some of that?
You know, any inspection, even a close inspection, we on average, we get about 7 inspections a day done. So if 2 of those are roof inspections, that's freed up quite a bit of time for another inspection. So I can't quantify how much we're actually saving, but step in the right direction.
And then that contractor, though, can move and keep going, not
Yeah.
have to wait. That's the big deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Other question? I went to the planning meeting the other night about the solar farm. And it was interesting. They passed it unanimously. But did you guys get those pictures that I sent out? And yes, I was flying. He's worried that I'm texting and taking
He's
pictures while I'm
flying
flying.
and taking video.
Well, there's nobody around.
You can. All you do,
You know,
you set
if
your
you watch
trim-
the ground too
just
much, you
set the
kinda have
trim
to-
up and you're good to go.
But I did it from 1,000 feet and 2,000 feet. And if you can tell on the thing, the glare is nothing compared to the one that I, at Goldeneye this morning. And so it just was not a factor. And it was a high, thin cloud, but you couldn't look at the sun that day. And it was kind of like it is today. But it was, you could still see shadows. I mean, it was pretty good glare off of those. Well, it wasn't much of a glare, because you can see the shadow of the airplane going through there. And so it was making a shadow. It was a pretty sunny day, and it just wasn't that much glare. So I don't know whether that could be part of the presentation or not. Maybe Christine has more, but that answers a lot of questions.
It was a very thorough presentation. All told, it was a little over 2 hours worth of presentation. It's on YouTube currently, so I would like a little direction. So we are, of course, coming before you guys June 2nd. Is the current expectation then that the applicant and maybe some key one or two folks would come with them? And then
I
some
think
number of
so.
the public come in?
I'm thinking we'd social distance and go ahead and have them here. People want to talk about it. I was surprised we didn't get more comments at the planning hearing.
This is the largest project in the Natrona County's probably ever.
In history.
History. So I think it,
So maybe they were waiting for our meeting, I don't know, but I'm hoping that we can open it up.
Well, you can
Okay.
read the packet too that Jason gave us, the big bound book, not the big one, but the mini one, and lots of pros and lots of cons. So a lot of people did participate in that way, what their thoughts were.
Well, and I tell you, anybody that had a problem with it, that company went down and talked to them. And I think that helped them. Now, maybe they didn't convince anybody, or they didn't convince all of them, but they're not hiding in the weeds either. They're out and they're talking to people, and I think that's good.
I would agree. Okay, that's the way we'll move forward. That's what I had indicated to the applicant before, was the applicant and a limited number of key folks. I was hoping for one or two other key folks, and then that would leave plenty of room in the audience for anyone else that wanted to attend.
Well, and then even the ones that can't attend, they can be on the phone, and her people and whoever, and then whoever else could be on the phone also.
Agreed. I think we'd leave all the same options open that we did before. We had an email in option where the chairman will call during public comment. We had our conference line open where they could call in if they didn't have access to a computer, or it sounds like, or doesn't sound like, they will be able to be present too. So plenty of opportunities.
Mr. Chair, the exception, variance case, I'm so confused anymore, the setback.
Yes.
Was it ever agreed that it's going to 500 feet, or that we are just going to give them approval to be closer than the mile or whatever's in the current ordinance, or current emergency ordinance, or rules, or whatever?
So I'll try to talk a little bit in generalities, so we're not getting into specifics, but they've applied for a conditional use permit for a utility scale solar installation. So we adopted those emergency regulations that we had mirrored off of some of our neighbors in the state. And part of that application was a 1.25 mile setback from a residential zoning district. This particular applicant came forward and said that that was a hardship on them, and so they've applied for a variance. So that there's kind of two questions before us. There's a CUP and a variance to reduce that down. And I don't have the staff report, but I think it's 0.63 miles is what they're
6
asking.
something.
Yeah.
Reducing it down to that.
I guess is it something we'd want to go to and actually make, rather than asking for a variance or whatever in the conditional use on the distance, actually just change it to that? The only question that comes in then is if you have wind turbines come in. And I don't think wind turbines should be very close to any house, so, it's.
Remember, wind turbines are covered in a totally different set
Okay.
of
Well, then
our
it'll make a
regulations.
And we have those.
And so we adopted, remember, emergency regulations, we can adopt initially for a 120-day period, and then we can extend that for another 120-day period. And so we're in that second grace period, if you will. So now staff has started the process of permanently adopting those rules. And that's, the setback is probably the biggest thing we're gonna propose to change when we move forward on the solar. As we got to looking nationwide, we didn't see that the 1.25 was supported nationwide. And they brought out in the hearing that some places are as little as 30 yards or 50 feet from somewhere, and we're not gonna go near that tight, but we're gonna propose a lesser setback than 1.25.
And you pointed out in that hearing that that's for the commercial build, but if residents wanted to move up closer, there's nothing stopping them, so.
Agreed.
Except a pipeline and a power line.
Well, yeah, easement or two.
Several easements out through there. Yeah.
Right.
And then we need to correct her, and I didn't say anything, but she talked about, I think it was Renata and some of those as being county roads. She made that distinction, and they are not county roads. They're dedicated to the public. And so we need to make sure she knows that. And then they did a good job at the end. I mean, they still have to come before us and talk about where that road's gonna be and what we're gonna ask them for the road.
Yeah, you'll see in our staff report, one of our conditions is any approved access, so they'll have to come to us regardless of wherever they get it to get approval. And if that is indeed by a residence, then we have conditions in there for dust control and trucking hours and things like that. But boy, we'll get into all those great details on a couple weeks.
It went pretty good. The chairman, he let some back and forth happen in there, and I think it ended up being fairly good, because they got a lot of questions answered. But it could have got out of hand, so I don't know whether I like that too well, but it worked out good then. So we'll just have to play that by ear. But okay, any other questions for Jason? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Matt, did you have anything?
Collaboratively.
You guys collaborate, you're gonna gang up on it. Okay.
Before we move on, Jason, I got an email from John Masterson. So one thing we raised just prior to that was some type of surety or bond posted that would inure to the benefit of the county to guarantee that any reclamation is accomplished. And so he wants to figure out how to do that, basically. In their proposal, they will be bonding, posting a bond in favor of the landowner, but we talked about some way to make the county a signatory to that so that we could, in case the landowner doesn't want to or whatever happens, we can pull that bond and reclaim as well, kind of just like oil and gas, very similar to that. So, so one thing I wanted to broach was the plan to reopen the courthouse. I put together kind of a proposed resolution that was based on, I think, the working group's thought process, which would open up the courthouse quite a bit more next Monday, the 26th. However, in light of recent developments and the recent spike, we wanted to have a discussion with regard to that. We've asked Anna maybe to hang around for this, so maybe she could, from the health department standpoint, give some guidance. But so I'd asked Matt to be here, and I know Eileen's been involved, and Tracy, in coming up with these proposals. So I turn it over.
Me. Hello, commissioners. So I think the plan, what we initially wanted to do was open up next Tuesday after Memorial Day weekend on the 26th. In light of what's happened, as well as just some situational things within the building, I think my take is we might want to just extend that out a little more before we totally open up. We need to look at some of the flow on that first floor and figure out how to get people in and out without making them stand around, which has historically been the case at times. So we got to figure that out. We're having Judge Christensen come in tomorrow to look at possibly using this room for jury selections. So we got to figure that out. I haven't talked to him yet or anything. We'll have to go over that, and that's going to be at 10 o'clock tomorrow. So Eileen and I are going to
Were
be
you
doing
on
that.
that call?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're not,
They're not going to do it now?
well, the Supreme Court said, not till August 4th, they're gonna allow any jury trials.
Yeah, the
Yeah, we
Supreme
didn't know
Court
that.
did, and they're also,
So there are orders out there that, and complete guidelines on what court systems are gonna have to do, and they have their own complete thing about all the judges have to agree to it, and there's a question whether it is a shall or should work with the county commissioners on opening up the building, because we're fortunate. We actually have a court that's separate, but a lot of the places have their courts within the clerk's office and everything else, and the way the order kind of read was the judges can tell you how to run the courthouse building. But they became aware after our call that there was some concern with some of the smaller counties that have separation between buildings. But the jury trials will not, August 4th or 3rd was when they could start. But they have a whole slew of, so if they come to you and say, we want to do this, there is a whole slew of guidelines that they've already developed, trying to open up the courts, staggering things so that, you don't have people coming in, witnesses, but it's a ways out before the courts are gonna open up.
and then trial-wise,
No,
well, and
Mr. Chairman,
trial-wise,
I knew that. That's the order that's been sitting in our printer for the last week. But they extended, there's no jury. I figured he knew that and was preparing for months down the road. So I apologize, but it's not a pressing issue because the state Supreme Court reinstituted an order last week.
well, and I don't like it either, because one thing that she said is that nationally, we're doing this, and that's what they've told us nationally we need to do. Well, Wyoming isn't like a lot of the national places, and so we're making a one-size-fits-all, or they are, and that's when they got into the should or shall and may, and it just, the thing that interested me is this time they're talking about if you're not ready to do the virtual type arraignments and that kind of thing, they were gonna come with money to help counties do it. And that's the first time they've done that. So in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, okay, if they're gonna come with money, and she said 50,000 per, but then she said they're going after 75 million total to work on these courthouses, and that's when we start talking about the new security system and, stuff like that for that building. But, it was interesting, but they're on the right track. I called Willix afterwards when he was talking about that and told him just that at least they're coming with money, but why are we doing something nationally? We're a little different. But it is on hold for a while.
Mr. Chairman, so if you need to have an opening plan, their guidelines are out there, and they've got all kinds of things that they've already thought through. So you don't
Okay.
have to really go in and reinvent the wheel. It's just kind of fine tune what they have.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, Commissioner, so I really think that's kind of a side issue. So the way we've handled the Townsend is, we've left it up to them. I mean, the district court judges control their courtrooms and the hallways, circuit courts under the state Supreme Court order, and folks are all behind glass anyway, so they're just doing what they need to do. So really, I think where we need just some guidance is with regard to this courthouse. We're gonna, again, open up the first floor to general traffic. We're gonna go to full expanded hours on Tuesday. We were going to basically allow the public into the public meetings again. I think that was all that was what was discussed, and that's kind of how the order is set up. But so then the question came up in light of recent, positives and things going on in the community, whether or not we want to keep with that schedule next Tuesday, or I think that there's some thought amongst staff that, maybe we need to take a step back from that. So, I mean, really, I think that's.
Maybe one more week.
Hold off
That's,
a week.
that's
Yeah.
what we need direction on, right?
Yes.
I think Eileen has some.
Can we
Thoughts, too.
open some stuff up for a little longer? And the assessor's office is, there are a lot of people want to go in.
Need to go in.
Do we have metal detectors for the doors?
I don't know, I'm just, I'm wondering about maybe opening up the assessor's office. There are a lot of people that have now looked at it and are wanting to come in, and I've told all of them, just file the formal complaint, and then make sure it gets into the Dropbox or wherever. And they'll get to you when they can. You have plenty of time, but a lot of them want to come in, so.
Yeah, so, Mr. Chairman, I first of all, I think that's good. That's why I've been telling people that inquire about the assessor. I say, get your formal appeal form in by the end of the month, otherwise you're gonna lose any ability. Secondly, I think with that floor, and we've talked a little bit about this, that the problem is if we open, say, just to the assessor, enforcement and kind of patrol of who's up there is going to be difficult. And so, initially what we were thinking is that the clerk's office would be open on a limited basis, the treasurer's as well, and then the assessors. And I don't know how, and I'm all ears, how we open one of those offices and then are able to keep tabs on making sure that only members of the public going to the assessor's office are on that floor. Because we're going to lose a deputy, I think, right?
Yeah, we've already
Or we've
lost
already
one.
lost
We
one,
only
so we're
have
down
one
to
now.
one. And I think,
And right now, it's me and a couple people from development and planning that are kind of manning the show down there, just to make sure things are flowing with the deputy. And I would just, and Chris with the clerk's office too. And I think if we open up more, we're gonna need more people to kind of navigate all this stuff. It can't just be just a couple of us to do it, and it's gonna need a little more involvement from the departments. Besides Tracy.
Did you have something, Tracy?
Mr. Chairman, so I haven't gotten to talk to my team today, but I'm kind of the odd man out, as I was the one pushing for the May 26th opening date. We have two deadlines looming. One, the appeals process for the property tax, and two, candidate filing. Those are my two big concerns right now. I was hoping that we could set up stanchions, so on and so forth, like we talked about on the first floor, to kind of get, people to adhere to the social distancing. The issue, though, that we are now running into is the assessor's office and my office colliding. And I have since moved my election department over across from the assessor's office to anticipate the large turnout of absentee voting that we're gonna get here pretty quickly. So that's gonna be an issue with the protesters and people coming in to file. I mean, those hallways are just so narrow that that's our concern, and how to serpentine people, or,
Yeah,
get
just
people
the
to-
flow, the flow. I mean, I actually came, Eileen and I talked about using the front doors. I know we talked about that last time, actually open those front doors and having a flow go in and a flow come in and go out, to where people aren't, just bottlenecking right there. But we are going to have to figure out something like the downstairs for a little while, just with stanchions. And I've asked the health department to give us more of those. They're looking into doing that for us as well. So I'm just waiting for those to kind of get them in and navigating
I
through
wonder if
that.
the airport has any old ones. You've got some.
What about the
from there.
fairgrounds? Do they have any more?
I haven't been able to get a hold of them yet, so I can check on that.
I can do that for you.
Fairgrounds.
Yeah, have you checked at the fairgrounds?
That's who
Yeah,
provided the ones
that's
for
what
downstairs. for us.
downstairs.
It's been
The
great.
Casper Event Center might have a ton of that stuff, and their building's not really doing much right now, so they would be a great resource
The
too,
event center.
if we need more.
Brad
Yeah,
Clark,
Brad Murphy.
Could you
Clarity.
do that? Have a sign that says for license title, please enter the south door. For clerk, assessor, and treasurer, please enter the front doors. And then
Yeah,
just
that's
have-
kind of what we were looking at. Yeah, we figured we could keep the
We
downstairs.
got better,
When they're downstairs.
okay.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Tammy.
Yep.
We'll send a semi over.
I can come and get them. I can come and get them.
So, Mr. Chairman, the other question I would have, so I think that sounds like a workable plan, and I'd be curious to hear from the health department too, but should we limit the number of folks inside the building? So like if we have somebody, keeping a numbers count, yeah, I mean, I went to Home Depot and I stood in line to get in that place. And so if we said, all right, we're gonna cap the number of people on the first floor to be X number in the public, then people gotta stay outside until they
Well,
exit, right?
Well, this morning at about 8:15,
It was all.
they went around the
Yeah.
parking lot.
But
But
that
I
goes
tell,
really fast.
but I tell you, it's not like that within probably
Right.
5 minutes because
Right,
they're all
so
in a
if that's the
building and
case,
getting
then
out.
really how many people?
I checked a couple of times. I got some plates to get, and I checked a couple of times, and there was always, when I looked, at least 2 people outside. And so I'm gonna buy a stand. That's just,
Mr. Chairman, the other issue that we're facing is at some point, the staff, meaning Matt, my staff, Jason's staff, have to get back to their regular jobs. We cannot man that area
Keep
for the
going.
next
Yeah, so.
6 months.
And I'm glad you brought that up. So I go down and I see Eileen, our IT head, greeting people at the back door. Matt's down there all day long. I see Tracy down there, and I think our elected officials and department heads are probably it's probably not the highest and best use of their skills and talents to be directing folks. So, I mean, I think, and I'm just thinking out loud here, I think that all of the departments, need to pony up 1 or 2 employees that we can rotate through. I mean, especially like the assessor's office and the treasurer's office, people,
Exactly.
her servant that can do
I
that,
agree.
because
well,
I
in the
just,
assessor's
Yeah, I know.
office, I agree with that. The guys, I don't know whether the field crews are out in the field very much. And that might be some people they can help too, because they're going in to see the assessor's office.
I mean,
just
if,
the
as
way
far
it
as the
is.
license, as the treasurer's office, of course, they're now past the deadline, the tax payments, but they were busy with that. Of course, you're not gonna pull anyone from the licensing or the titling department, that would be ridiculous.
Yeah, that's where they're
And
at.
it's just,
Yeah.
it's
What-
thin, and then it just gets thinner, and
If you come in that back door, then you've got somebody at the front, at that door all the time anyway. They could put them, say, all right, just go upstairs and then limit the amount of people that are up there.
Mr. Chairman, how about contracting this out to somebody like the guys that do security at the event center and all that?
COVID fee.
It's a COVID
It's
fee.
COVID related,
It's
I
COVID,
guess,
but we could
yeah.
get somebody, I mean, they do security. I mean, you tell them what the rules are,
They do a good job.
yeah.
That might be something to look at,
keep them in.
Yeah,
yeah.
we can look into that if you want to look
Yeah.
into that.
Well, as long as it's COVID related. and
Yep.
we get, I was gonna ask where the money was. Come on up.
I just received word that,
I hate it when you answer that phone.
no, this is, in regards to what you're talking about, and you can check it out, but, we just received a bill for $30,000 from Spectra. So,
Was that for up at the event center?
security and a couple other things, but
I didn't
that $100,000 is going.
Did you?
Well, but here again, there's gonna be plenty of money in the pot, because these are unexpected, unbudgeted
Because they're
Somebody's gonna squeal about some of them probably somewhere.
20% less.
You're done with
Than the
the,
Are they good?
schools, right?
Best decision we ever made was to go to the event center staff. That, like I was,
You know, the thing is, we're not talking about in perpetuity.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
this
true.
might be for a couple of weeks.
Couple of
Right.
weeks. We hope.
You know, because a lot of this stuff is gonna die down. Election filings, the assessor's office is going to, I mean, once the appeals period ends, then they can make appointments with them and.
Absentee voting.
But then you're gonna start right into absentee voting, which will be soon.
We haven't heard the county clerk's budget yet on elections. Ooh, that's not COVID related.
Oh, yes, it is.
Well, I
The
guess some of
Secretary
it
of
did.
State has allocated significant monies for.
Oh, I'm spending it.
For a lot of absentee ballots.
Yeah. Yeah,
He said a
said
significant increase in absentee
on
ballots.
explaining that this is not vote by mail, this is absentee
What is that?
ballots.
Holy cow,
What is absentee voting?
That was quite a explanation, wasn't it?
But we're
Yeah,
taking
he was
requests.
covering it over.
But they're sending out.
So what I had envisioned with this entry and exit with the building is just keep the downstairs, the basement as is, because it's flowing just fine. And then having the offices up front, having the front door be that main entrance and exit.
Yeah.
Just so we keep the separation. We don't have people going downstairs ruining
Well,
the flow.
If you want them to exit the north door, whatever,
Right.
so that it's,
And we've been using that a little bit with the assessor. We've asked them to take the people with appointments down that way and let them out the building that way.
Yeah, we
So-
need to open it up as quick as we can, but you guys that are here all the time
You
need
know
to
better.
decide how to do that.
So, Mr. Chairman, I think that based on the discussion, the way the resolution's currently drafted would accomplish that. I mean, I've debated, and we've had a little bit of a discussion of how detailed the resolution needs to be, and I don't think we need to identify every stanchion. I mean, as long as we just say
No.
the floor is open, and then you guys can work on it. But, so if you guys are comfortable with that, and if the health department folks are okay with that, I think the resolution that's on the agenda for tonight would accomplish that, effective next Tuesday.
Okay. Well, and if it wouldn't even be next Tuesday, if it'd be a week later, it'd still work.
Like June 1st.
Whenever, yeah.
Whatever date you
well,
want to put in.
then you're outside the assessor's appeal.
Right.
But-
We
So
do
you-
want to do it before that.
Well,
was gonna
and,
s-
and I think that's one where they can put a box outside the door and say, please pick this up.
Mr. Chairman, we do have, of course, we have a drop box out there, and there are also blank appeal forms that they can, that they can access outside this back door here. And, and so also candidates have been dropping off their filing forms in the drop boxes, and we've accepted emails, of course, that type of thing, but there are some people that just would rather hand it over to a real-life person.
Make sure it gets in by the deadline. Okay, Brooke?
I just was gonna say, so are you looking for a resolution on a date today? That's what I feel like, we're not there yet, so I know we're kind of, you could take a week or two, like, can we make a decision?
So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Kaufman, the resolution that's on the agenda has an effective date of May 26th. So if we want to stick with that, we don't just approve it as it's written. If you want to kick it back a week, then we just need to amend it with a motion, motion to approve with an amendment that it becomes effective June whatever. So, and I guess, I don't know, I defer to you all, but.
I'm just wondering, we can look at what it's going to take to get the stanchions and stuff over here. It'll be a lot of work to get it by the 26th, but we can probably do it.
And you're talking about PSAs to get the word out?
Yeah.
Somebody just call me and I'll help.
Thank
I'm just
you.
waiting for someone to tell me they need me.
Yeah, we'll need to get that updated. And we heard the one going up on to the
Oh,
mountain,
good.
and it was
You were
great.
wondering if it ran.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Jason and I heard it yesterday as we were driving up to go look at the lodge.
The
So
last one?
You caught every lie? Just kidding.
it was well done. We
Good.
yeah, but we'll need to get it updated for sure. So we'll have to get you something to update things. But thank you for doing that.
Of course.
So Spectra does not, they had to, I think the security up there is third party. I don't know if it's their employees of Spectra. So,
They do have a security
yeah, they have the security.
division
but-
within Spectrum.
Right, but, what's Larry's name? Salesman out at Driner Ford. He has the company, so when they do the fairgrounds and stuff, it says event center or whatever. I don't know if those are, I don't believe those are employees, because I talked to Larry one day, and I think he said that he has his own side thing, so there may be a markup.
Yeah,
Through
that's what I was
Spectra.
thinking.
I'm-
Separate.
Yeah.
That is a separate company. Those people who work for us at the school, though, were employees of Spectra.
Right.
So-
So,
Mr. Chairman, I was just talking to Tracy, and so we'll have a sheriff's deputy in the basement, so I don't think we need security per se. So, I mean, even if we went to like a temp service and got a $9 an hour temp employee, which maybe I'm being overly optimistic, but, you know, a lower cost, they're basically greeters. I mean, that's
Right.
what we need, and people that can just direct people, and if there was a incident or, you know, we'd just call the sheriff's deputy downstairs. So I mean, I think we could explore some less expensive options.
figure it out.
I guess, no, and I agree. The only reason I thought about them is they deal with crowds, and that, you know,
They already know what
they
to do.
kind of
and
know how
everything.
to, hey,
Okay.
you know.
Mr. Chairman, so if the rest of my group wants to wait another week, I'm
We
kind of
can- we
okay
can-
with that since I'll be gone the rest of the week. So if you guys don't have time, so I'm not here to, you know, do all the work for them to be ready by next Tuesday. But if they want to wait, I mean, I'm totally okay with that. Jason, we haven't heard from you.
We've dedicated code enforcement folks. Didn't really see a need to be pushing code enforcement in the community right now. So that was a great fit. They're usually used to less than happy folks. So they've been well suited for it. But
Tracy,
but
you
we
want
do
to-
need to, figure out how to spread the load out among everybody a little bit.
Okay. Well,
We haven't talked to the treasurer or the assessor yet about these plans. And in fairness to their offices, we should consider what their thoughts are and how they would like to see their offices opened and how many people, maybe they're meeting the need, maybe they're not, we don't know. We haven't had, our workload has been such that we've been doing everything we can, but we haven't got to the point where we've been able to talk with them
okay.
and how their operations are being handled. And so the timing is such, it's not that we don't want to open, it's just that you're going to do a resolution tonight, we haven't talked to everybody, or solidified all the details of how those operations are going to look. No, we don't need them in the resolution, but there's still some things that need
Yeah.
to be discussed.
And the only thing I would say, I think from talking to Assessor Keating, he would just assume open everything up completely tomorrow. And so I don't think he would have any problem whether it's next week or the week after. I don't know about Tom. I mean, the treasurer's office, I've had no discussions. I mean, I guess just from our discussions about staff there, they may be a little more reticent and want a little more time. So, the decision should be data-driven.
As far as the assessor though, and I'm glad that you said that, but we've got to have him have people in because of the tax deal.
Can I suggest maybe doing it middle of next week instead of the 26th? Like,
ASAP,
okay.
as far as taxpayers, they really need to be able to get in there before the 29th.
We're all getting calls.
And every call that I do is the same. You've got to go down here. If you don't get in the building, put that protest in. Read the little box up there on top. But,
we
they
can
need to
we can
be-
push it. We can push it to the 26th.
they
I
need to
mean,
come in and do it. So, and as far as I'm concerned, if we have a resolution that says the 26th, and you guys aren't quite ready the 26th, I'm all right. You got a resolution, whenever you go.
Okay. we'll shoot for it. Let's do it. And we'll go for it.
Paul, just as a follow-up, all of their help is staff. It's not contracted to the event center. So I'm not sure if they're paying them as employees when they're on the time for that or what, but you asked about that. He
Oh,
said
no.
all of their security personnel is staff.
Larry says?
That's, Brad just told me that for the event center.
But Larry does have a private site.
We'll just
Yeah.
we'll have to have somebody at the front door just asking. So,
Yeah,
Mr.
we can do
Chairman,
that.
the conversation, yeah, was to just open the assessor's office up, keep the clerk and the treasurer's office on the first floor closed for the time being, but open it up to the assessor's office. We'll just need somebody at that door then to, who are you here to see? Okay, the assessors go this way, up, titles go back around the other side. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
so that would take an amendment then. So and are you guys okay with doing that on the 26th then? For next?
That would be easy to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, so in the interest of time, because I've got other stuff.
Yeah.
So I think the resolution, you could approve it with the amendment that the first floor be open only to the assessor's office. And then I can just make that interlineation, and then we can sign it tomorrow or something.
Sounds good. All right,
Does that sound good?
that's one more question, Anna. Aye. Okay, is there a motion to go into exec for legal?
So
Been
moved.
moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, we're